Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Shelter Game. I can synthesize infinitely. Chapter 101. In the room, Bai Yi clicked on the backpack and prepared to start a new synthesis. But the next moment, he looked up at the ceiling above his head, scratched his head, and had a puzzled expression in his eyes. Strangeness. It felt like someone was watching me. Just for a moment. Fleeting. Illusion. Bai Yi murmured, and then chuckled, feeling that he was thinking a little too much. This is my own room, and there can't be anyone hiding around, so it's most likely an illusion. Are you too tired? You've already had such hallucinations. It seems that after the synthesis is completed, you have to rest early. Bai Yi muttered. The words fell. Sibel, who was playing games on the side, immediately came over and breathed out her hot breath. Oh, Bai Yi, do you want to rest? Me too, do you want to sleep? Saying that, Sibel raised the corner of her mouth and quietly stretched her right hand towards Raya's waist. By the way, I am indeed sleepy, but I mean normal rest. Bai Yi rolled his eyes and said angrily, why does this woman always seem to be spicier than me? Seeing this, Sibel immediately covered her mouth and started laughing. Hey, I'm talking about a normal rest. What did Bai Yi think it was? But even though there is a beauty like me around, Bai Yi doesn't want to do anything. Could it be something bad? Blanche, can this be tolerated? Looking at the two remaining synthesis times, Bai Yi gritted his teeth and decided to endure it for a while. But the Chi-san-san, he said, was unceremonious. Oh, is it a method to stimulate generals? Very good, you succeeded. Wait until I finish my work first, and then I will let you know whether I can do it or not. Kiki, I'll wait and see. Sibel responded with a sweet voice without fear, licking her red lips. She was already a little hungry. Bai Yi took a deep breath, ignored the fiery gaze from the side, and turned to look at the backpack. There are 2 synthesis times left. Bai Yi directly used it to synthesize the Forbidden Demon Stone. Ever since he knew that the Forbidden Demon Stone could be synthesized through synthesis, Bai Yi decided to use the Forbidden Demon Stone for the second evolution of Sanctuary. With the effect of the Forbidden Magic Stone, it is no exaggeration to say that as long as he uses the Forbidden Magic Stone to evolve for the second time, he can fully believe that his shelter will definitely be a nightmare for all mages. No matter what kind of mage, when he sees his own sanctuary, he has to take a detour. Anyone who gets closer may be affected. After all, this is the Forbidden Magic Stone. There are so many magical creatures in the Dark Land, using them to evolve is simply an indispensable choice. Logically speaking, it is impossible for anyone to obtain the Forbidden Demon Stone during this time period. Although it is not as precious as the Kongming Stone, it is only second-rate. The most important thing is that there are more than one materials required for evolution, and most people simply cannot get them together. That is, Bai Yi got the synthesis path by chance, so he could use the Forbidden Demon Stone as an evolutionary material. Thinking of this, Bai Yi raised an expectant smile and directly used the remaining 2 synthesis times to synthesize 2 Forbidden Demon Stones. Speaking of which, you don't necessarily have to use the Forbidden Demon Stone. In fact, you can consider using the Forbidden Demon Stone to synthesize it. Bai Yi's eyes flickered, with fantastic thoughts in his mind. Mithril plus Mithril synthesize the Forbidden Demon Stone. Then I wonder what can be synthesized by adding Forbidden Demon Stone and Forbidden Demon Stone. Or, the Mithril Forbidden Demon Stone. To be honest, he really wanted to try it, but what he thought was that the number of synthesis times per day was too few. If he really wanted to try it, even if the synthesized materials were very powerful, if he wanted to use them for evolution, it would take at least 20 synthesis times. This is a bit too much a drag on the evolution of Sanctuary. The higher the evolution level of the early shelter, the stronger and more stable the defense will be. It wasn't long before darkness fell, and he didn't want to be like before, enduring for more than 10 years before he could evolve for the first time. However, you can try a tentative synthesis, but it is definitely not now. Everything will have to wait until enough Forbidden Magic Stones are collected. By the time there are better materials, it will not be too late to continue synthesizing them. If not, just evolve the shelter for the second time. After the synthesis was completed, Bai Yi put down the phone. Sibel looked over and raised the corners of her mouth. Are you done? That's right, I'll let you see if I can do it next. Bai Yi grinned, picked up Sibel, turned and walked towards the bathroom. Walking into the bathroom, there was a bang and the door was closed tightly. Immediately afterwards, the shower head was turned on, and the sound of water splashing was heard. The fierce battle began. In the living room, Mia, who was immersed in playing games, raised her head curiously and looked at the room. Strange, I seem to hear a familiar voice. Hearing this, the tiger mother rolled her eyes and covered her cub's ears again. Roar, you are too young to listen. Time flows. The night passed in a blink of an eye. The next day, Bai Yi yawned and slowly opened his eyes. Subconsciously, he let out a sigh, and then he felt a weight on his body. Then the quilt was lifted, and Zybel's head poked out from it, revealing a charming smile. Good morning, my dear. Bai Yi twitched the corner of his mouth and couldn't help but ask. What are you doing? I'm hungry, so I'm having breakfast. No wonder my waist feels a little sore when I wake up. Bai Yi looked helplessly to his side. Mia was still sleeping and was not disturbed. Because of Zybei's birth, Bai Yi's plan for this little guy was to let her sleep outside with the tiger mother and the others last night, but he didn't expect that she would come to his bed as soon as she woke up. Forget it, Mia is so young anyway, she can't disturb herself and Zybel. When he woke up in the morning, feeling refreshed, Bai Yi touched Zybel's rough horns and raised the corners of his mouth. Are you full, Sibel? No, then go ahead. Okay. Zybel smiled seductively and shrank back again. Bai Yi, on the other hand, picked up the phone, clicked on the screen and looked at the time. 7 in the morning. I usually wake up at 5 or 6 o'clock in the past, but I woke up a little later today, probably because I had too much fun yesterday. After all, as a person who has been holding back his anger, he is also a powerful extraordinary mage. When encountering a succubus, he can only say that he understands everything. Shaking his head, Bai Yi was not in a hurry to get up or play games, but opened the forum. As usual, check out some posts and see if you can get any news. In the forum, as soon as he came in, Bai Yi found many transaction posts, which made him look puzzled. Aren't today's players afraid of danger? After all, the players in the forum should all know that players can get each other's resources by fighting with each other. Therefore, many players do not dare to risk private transactions. Why are you brave again now? But after browsing the posts for a while, Bai Yi understood. I see. Clicking on the first official post pinned to the top of the forum's trading section, Bai Yi smiled. The content of this post is very simple. Officials have begun to underwrite logistics business. That's right, it's a logistics business that specifically provides items for private transactions between players. Depending on the distance and the value of the item, you only need to pay a certain amount of basic resources. That's right, no money, just basic resources in the game. But at the end of the day they all start at 100. However, this business is currently only being tried in some cities and has not been launched nationwide. But it also allows many players to experience convenience. After all, the official trade fair has not stabilized yet, so you can't go there every day. If you want to go there every day, it will take at least some time to prepare. With this business, players can do normal transactions just like normal express delivery without going out. I have to say that the official is really smart. With this method, based on the transaction volume between players, the basic resources that can be harvested every day are probably not a small amount. Tisk. Bai Yi was a little envious. Starting with 100 at a time, it can easily reach 300 or 400 basic resources. The number of people under the official's command is quite small, just a few big cities, and there is no need to mobilize many people. In addition, no matter what the identities of the two parties in the transaction are, they generally have little courage to take action against official people, and the risks are also low. Although the price is just a basic resource, it is precisely because it is a basic resource that it is precious and important. Because basic resources are needed by every player and will be used all the time. Most building construction requires basic resources, as does shelter upgrades. This is equivalent to a stable currency, and you can never have too much. Of course, this is also good for Bai Yi. After all, he is also one of the players. It is convenient for the players, and it is also convenient for him. Many players used to think of things that were useless, but now because of the emergence of this business, they just post on the forum to see if anyone needs them. If you need it, let the official people deliver it to your door. If you don't need it, just post it. It doesn't take much effort. Therefore, there are many trading posts for strange items on the forum. Bai Yi, looking, a surprised smile soon appeared on his face. Although there is nothing good in it, some seemingly ordinary items are just useful to Bai Yi. Flowers, there's a huge flower sale in the game, good stuff, whoever buys it knows it. Close double angle bracket. Potted plants, the best imperial royal potted plants, with exquisite patterns. If you buy a potted plant, we will give you soil, and we will send it to you for burial. Brothers, I picked up a world tree seed, come and buy it. FK, brothers, I have really good stuff here. Needless to say, flowers are just what Bai Yi needs, and they are short of flowers. With flowers, the natural ancient tree room drawing can begin to be constructed. Secondly, potted plants are also good. Although there are no special effects, the shelter needs to be decorated, get some potted plants, and plant some moonlight grass in the future. It will also look beautiful and improve the comfort level of the shelter. It's the world tree seed. Bai Yi clicked in curiously, then withdrew with a dark face and cursed. Damn it, a dead black carrot seed can be said to be a world tree seed for you, and I believe you. After scorning the player who posted the post, Bai Yi clicked on the fourth post. When I saw the content in the post, I took a deep breath. Damn it, is there such a thing? There are pictures in the post. According to the player who posted the post, these are treasures in the dark land, with various postures. Ahem, it is simply eye-opening. None on earth. There are even some strange races that are amazing. Brother, have some. Bai Yi did it on the spot. Typing sent a message. Nothing else, mainly to better understand the creatures in the dark world. It's not expensive anyway, only 100 stones. In addition, Bai Yi also bought flowers, potted plants, etc. These things can be bought with ordinary resources, and they are cheap, so don't give them up for free. Bai Yi also bought some more, especially flowers, and planned to plant them in pots in the future. Some of them were planted directly in the greenhouse. Anyway, there are a lot of empty areas in the greenhouse now. If you don't breed white, you won't breed. After everything was done, Bai Yi clicked on the newly added calling function in the forum, filled in his address, and waited for the official courier to come to his door. He lay there for another 5 minutes. Call. Readily. In Bai Yi's comfortable expression, Zybier crawled out of the quilt, her face was red, and she showed an expression of being full. It has to be said that having a succubus by your side is still a magical charm, and the taste of it is not what outsiders can understand. After feeding Zybier, Bai Yi got up and prepared to greet the courier who would arrive later. He also prepared breakfast for everyone. He planned to send the skull to Dragon Soul early today, and then get the heart from Dragon Soul, then leave the dungeon and return to the shelter to complete all the drawings. If nothing else, the heart of the Dragon Soul is definitely a rare treasure. Bai Yi couldn't wait for a long time. After Bai Yi finished making breakfast, the official courier also arrived. After Bai Yi handed over the basic resources to the other party left to pick up the goods and said that they would arrive as soon as the afternoon. Bai Yi is still very satisfied with this speed. After breakfast, Bai Yi didn't waste time and went directly back to the room and clicked on the game. The game character is still in the castle and has not left. After Bai Yi moved his hands, he controlled the character to leave the castle. The number of undead in the town is still dense. Originally, he had the idea of solving them all, but now, forget it, there is no time. Shadow travel. The staff appeared in his hand, Bai Yi waved it lightly and disappeared directly. When he reappeared, he was already on top of a tall building. The staff was waved again, and Bai Yi's figure kept flashing in the dark elf town. After using it several times in succession, he left the town. It's really expensive. Bai Yi's face turned slightly pale, and he directly used the source of magic power to restore his magic power, and his complexion became much rosier. Next, he continued to move forward and went straight to the dragon's lair. It took me a while to get back here again. When Bai Yi first arrived at the end of the dragon's nest, there was a buzz, light emerged from it, and the dragon's soul slowly appeared in front of him. Human, you're here, what's the result? Dragon's soul asked expectantly. Of course it's done. Bai Yi grinned, took out the bone dragon skull and placed it in front of the dragon soul. Seeing this, Dragon Soul's huge head immediately approached, as if sniffing, and nodded. Yes, it's the breath of oaks. My poor child has turned into an undead. 11. But now, you and I will finally return to the embrace of the Dragon God together. Dragon God. Another new god. Bai Yi thoughtfully wrote down this god. Oh, he heard about some gods in his last life, but not the Dragon God. Think about it, the Dark Land integrates many worlds, and the gods don't know how many there are. Compared to the Dragon God, he is more looking forward to the reward of the Dragon Soul in front of him. As if feeling Bai Yi's expectant gaze, Dragon Soul said lightly. Human, you have completed my mission, and I will follow my promise and give you the reward you deserve. The words fell. Front red light. The blood-red heart that Bai Yi had seen before suddenly appeared in front of him. Looking at his heart, Bai Yi's breathing suddenly became rapid and his eyes were blazing. No matter how many times I see this thing, I still think it is a treasure. Under the control of the Dragon Soul, the heart flew in front of Bai Yi. Now, it belongs to you. I hope it will be helpful to you. Dragon Soul said softly. Hearing this, Bai Yi nodded and immediately took the heart with a smile on his face. Thank you, don't worry, it will definitely be useful to me. The heart was already in hand, so Bai Yi was not in a hurry to check it, but asked a question. Speaking of which, Lord Dragon Soul, I still don't know how you died. The Dragon Soul in front of him must be powerful. When darkness fell, it shouldn't be difficult to escape and find a safe place to survive. But I don't know why I died here. Regarding this question, Dragon Soul became silent, as if he was remembering something. After a while, he told Bai Yi the reason for his death. When darkness fell, I thought about leaving, but unfortunately when I was about to leave, I suddenly heard the bad news. In anger, I chose to rush into the black mist, and fought to the death with some powerful beings, but was ultimately defeated. I just tried my best to return here before dying, and died in the lair. Bad news. Bai Yi looked shocked. What kind of bad news would make you so desperate? Dragon Soul did not hide anything and told the truth. It's the Dragon God. The moment darkness fell in the dungeon, I got the news of the Dragon God's death. Hiss, the Dragon God has fallen. Bai Yi's eyes widened and he took a breath immediately. Dragon God. Just from the name, you can tell that this is no ordinary god, it is definitely an extremely powerful existence among gods. After all, there is no ordinary person who can take the dragon crown as his god's name. That's right, the Dragon God fell. Dragon Soul nodded, but not too sad. The Dragon God is of great significance to dragons like us. The sad news of the Dragon God's death made me lose my mind. Looking back later, I regretted it. Although the Dragon God has fallen, with the Dragon God's methods, he may not have no backup plan. I should leave, find the Dragon God, and preserve my strength. It's a good thing that when the Dragon God revives, I can offer my own strength to the Dragon God. It sighed, obviously still unwilling to accept its own death. This is the love of a human being, no, it is the love of a dragon. But Bai Yi was shocked by Dragon Soul's words. Lord Dragon Soul, what do you mean by this? Is the Dragon God not dead? No, the Dragon God has indeed fallen. Dragon Soul shook his head and explained under Bai Yi's doubtful eyes. But the Dragon God is different from other gods. The Dragon God is a born god. Other gods mostly become gods due to faith or strength, but the Dragon God becomes a god due to blood. Whenever the Dragon God dies, the Dragon God's bloodline will be resurrected in the new dragon, turning it into a new Dragon God. Although I died, my soul has not dissipated, so I can still feel that the blood of the Dragon God still exists. It just hasn't recovered yet. But it came too soon. I see. Bai Yi nodded suddenly, with a flash of envy in his eyes. Tisk tisk, these extraordinary races are indeed powerful. Because of their bloodline, each of them started much higher than humans. Nowadays, there are actually people who rely on blood to become gods. Although the details were unclear, he knew that becoming a god by blood was definitely different from the charm of a god. It is possible for Shinmei to become a god, it all depends on the thigh he holds. But the Dragon God bloodline can obviously become a god when it grows up. Who cannot envy the bloodline of a god who can become a god just by lying down? Mentioning the Dragon God, maybe he thought of something. The Dragon Soul's eyes condensed and suddenly became serious when looking at Bai Yi. Humanity. Ah, Lord Dragon Soul, do you have something else to do? Bai Yi felt the changes in the Dragon Soul and couldn't help but ask questions. Dragon Soul nodded and said in a deep voice, Human, there is one more thing I want to ask you. But this time, I have no reward for you, but I hope you can agree. Ah, is there anything else? Bai Yi scratched his head and grinned. You tell me, as long as I can do it, I can consider agreeing. It doesn't matter if there is no reward. Thanks. Dragon Soul thanked him from the bottom of his heart and then said, Lord Dragon God is about to revive. At this moment, he must exist in a certain area in the Dark Land. I don't know what changes will happen in the future, but when the Dragon God's bloodline is revived, it will not be strong immediately, but it will need to grow. If you meet Lord Dragon God in the Dark Land in the future, I hope you can help him to the best of your ability. At that time, all the Dragon Clan will owe you a favor. Hearing this, Bai Yi thought it was something, just like this. Without hesitation, he nodded directly. Don't worry, if you encounter someone, I will definitely help. Joke, I am a living Lei Feng. Dragon Soul doesn't say anything, he will take action if he sees it. This is a being who will definitely become a god in the future. If he doesn't help, who will? In response to this, Dragon Soul once again showed a grateful smile, and after hesitating for a while, he said, Thank you, human being. Now that my child's remains have returned to me, what's the use of this residual soul of mine, even if it survives for a few days? I have decided to throw myself into the arms of the Dragon God immediately. Although I have no other reward for you, there is still a corpse. If you need it, take it with me after my soul dissipates. Ah, this is your remains after all, isn't it too bad? Bai Yi was stunned for a moment, asked quickly, and touched his nose, feeling a little embarrassed. He thought that the Dragon Soul saw that he wanted to dig up its bones, and he was a little panicked for a moment. But obviously, he thought too much. No problem, I will completely dissipate. It would be a waste to keep it, so I will give it to you. I hope you can survive in the dark. Goodbye, flat type. Finished. The Dragon Soul sighed and looked at the skull of the bone dragon. The light shone and enveloped the skull. In the dragon's roar, the Dragon Soul and skull slowly dissipated, turned into little bits of light, and disappeared into the dragon's nest. Seeing this, Bai Yi felt a little sad for a while. Apart from anything else, this Dragon Soul is pretty good to me. After all, he got a lot of good things in his hometown. Before leaving, even the bones were given to him. It really made me cry to death. What a dragon. No more talking, let's dig. Bai Yi wiped the saliva from the corner of his mouth, and immediately decided not to live up to the Dragon Soul's kindness, and condensed the magic sword to prepare to dig out the dragon bone. But then, he thought of his heart, dispersed the magic sword, and couldn't wait to check it. The heart of the black dragon's bloodline essence. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. This is a supreme treasure formed by a powerful black dragon when he poured all his blood and power into his heart when he was about to die. It contains the peak power essence of a powerful black dragon and was originally used to cultivate his descendants. It grew up, but unfortunately it was buried at the hands of the Dark Elves, so it gave its heart to a human. For any living being, this one has huge benefits. Close black lens bracket. Effect. After use, a talent, specialization and skill will randomly change in a positive direction. Close black lens bracket. This effect can be achieved. Awesome, awesome, ha ha ha. Seeing the introduction, Bai Yi was shocked at first, but then he couldn't help laughing wildly, unable to suppress it at all. The effect of this heart is really too powerful. It can actually directly change your own talent. And in addition to talents, there is even a specialization to write a skill. And this change is still a change in a positive direction. 830 In other words, it will definitely change for the better and in a stronger direction. This shows how powerful this heart is. Simply invincible. Bai Yi can't wait to get a few more. If there were a few more, one for use, one for synthetic profession, and one for synthetic talent. He was afraid that he would wake up laughing from his dreams for a year in a row. You've made it with your blood, ha ha ha. Bai Yi couldn't hide his excitement and couldn't stop smiling. But then, a look of confusion appeared on his face. What a pity, there is only one. There is no doubt that if this thing is used, it will be of great benefit. But he was reluctant to part with it and wanted to use it to synthesize it. After all, if this thing is synthesized, it will definitely be able to synthesize powerful items. At this time, he really wished he could get another dragon soul and issue a mission to himself. Service. But just when Bai Yi was struggling, buzz. Mobile phone vibration. Someone called. I looked at the caller ID and saw that it was Wang Si. Bai Yi touched his chin with a puzzled look on his face, but then he seemed to have thought of something, his eyes lit up with joy, and he hurriedly answered the call. Boss, I didn't bother you, did I? Wang Si's voice came immediately from the phone. Bai Yi said expectantly, no, why don't you just tell me what you want to do with me? Haha, of course it's a good thing. You can take a guess, boss. It will definitely make you happy. I guess, is it the calming stone? Ha ha ha, boss, you guessed it right, this is it. Hearing this, Bai Yi's eyes flashed with joy and he asked excitedly. Really, you got it? That's of course. With my help, there are no materials that can't be bought. After Wang Si boasted for a moment, he laughed mischievously. Hey, boss, I've got the stuff. I'll send it to you later. Do you think the conditions you promised me before are still valid? Haha, it counts, of course the head is the first. Bai Yi nodded repeatedly, a happy smile immediately appeared on his face, and said. As long as you get the calming stone, I can help you build an extraordinary weapon. Okay, I'll just wait for what you say, boss. Hee, I'll leave now. After saying that, Wang Si also hung up the phone happily, and presumably immediately set off and rushed towards him. Just got the black dragon heart. Now, the Kongyan stone is about to be obtained. Bai Yi couldn't help but hug Zybel beside him and took a big sip. No wonder I heard the faint call of magpies as soon as I woke up in the morning. Today is a double happiness. Putting down the phone, Bai Yi still couldn't help himself. However, he took a deep breath to calm down, returned to the game, looked at the heart of the black dragon, and after some hesitation, chose to use it. After all, I don't know how long it will take to synthesize it, but using it now can directly enhance the combat power. And unlike the Licious heart that I got before, it only adds attributes that I don't really need. After clicking and using it, the black dragon heart in the backpack immediately turns into a ray of light and escapes into the character's body. Vaguely, a dragon roar sounded in Raya's ears. A dragon's might faintly burst out from within his body. Zybel sensed this breath in an instant, and couldn't help but turn her head and look over, with a look of shock on her face. What a powerful dragon! Has he got the inheritance from the dragon? This kind of dragon power is much more powerful than those sub-dragon species. It is completely comparable to the pure-blood dragon, or even more powerful. Only those powerful dragons can possess it. Under this dragon's power, weak creatures can almost feel the suppression from their bloodline. It was as if the tiger cub in the living room was trembling in the arms of his mother. Fortunately, this breath only has an effect on extraordinary people, and ordinary people cannot detect it. They can only feel a gust of wind passing by. For ordinary people, they do not have extraordinary intuition, so naturally they cannot feel the terror of extraordinary aura. Of course, Bai Yi didn't know about this either. With the use of the dragon's heart, he has fallen into an immersive feeling of increased power. It has to be said that the energy contained in the dragon's heart is very powerful. Not only can it change talents, specializations and skills as mentioned in the introduction, but it can even enhance Bai Yi's physique. At least it's about doubled. Logically speaking, it should be able to enhance it more. After all, this is the heart of the black dragon, and the black dragon is already good at the physical body, but it may be because most of the energy emperors use it to change the skills that are not given. As Bai Yi became stronger, he also felt the changes in his own talents, skills, and expertise within his body. On the screen of the mobile phone, prompts began to pop up one after another. You used the black dragon's blood essence heart. Close black lens bracket. Your talent meditation has changed and you have become a dragonborn. Close black lens bracket. Your specialization element affinity has changed to super magic affinity. Close black lens bracket. Your skill soul leading hand has changed into Death Dragon's Gaze. Close black lens bracket. You have perfectly absorbed the energy of the blood essence heart of the black dragon, and gained additional magic and dragon language. Close black lens bracket. Time passed by minute. 1 minute, 10 minutes. A quarter of an hour later. The aura on Bai Yi gradually dissipated. At the same time, Bai Yi opened his eyes, feeling the changes in his body, and couldn't help but smile with joy on his face. He clenched his fist and waved it, and the enhanced power made the air roar. So strong. Bai Yi was amazed in his tone. In terms of physical strength, he was now at least 10 times stronger than a mortal. This is not as simple as 1 + 1 = 2, but will produce an effect greater than 3. It is no exaggeration to say that even warriors of the same level may not be able to compare with him in terms of physique, and may even be crushed by him. You know, he is a mage. For a mage who is extremely fragile in close combat, such a powerful body will not only make his life-saving ability stronger, but his combat power will also be more terrifying. The mage's staff may be used to perform magic, but with such a powerful body, if you dare to get close, I will hold the staff in my backhand and bang your head hard. Not to mention that Bai Yi is also good at melee combat, and can condense a magic sword with his backhand. Seeing Bai Yi recover and look strange, Zybal, who had been watching from the side for a long time, couldn't help but walked over and asked curiously. Bai Yi, are you okay? Of course I'm fine, I just couldn't help myself for a while. Bai Yi grinned, eyes excited. Sibel's eyebrows turned and she said, I just felt the dragon's power in you. Is it because of this? Ha ha ha, that's right. Bai Yi laughed and nodded, but did not hide the fact that he got the black dragon's heart. Hearing this, Sibel's face suddenly showed a shocked expression. Hiss, are you talking about the black dragon in the dungeon where I first came? Hey, you know. Bai Yi was also surprised. Sibel nodded. Of course, when I came to the dungeon, I saw the black dragon from a distance. It is very strong. It is only one step away from becoming a demigod. I didn't expect you to actually get its inheritance. As she spoke, a smile appeared on her face, feeling happy for Bai Yi. As a succubus, after choosing Bai Yi, she and Bai Yi will advance and retreat together, just like human husband and wife. The stronger Bai Yi is, the happier she will naturally be. Ha ha ha, it's just a coincidence. I didn't expect that it still has a residual soul left, but most people probably won't get its reward. Bai Yi raised the corners of his mouth and smiled. Even if the average player encounters the remnant soul of the black dragon, it will be of no use. Because it will not be the opponent of Bone Dragon. If you can't kill the Bone Dragon, you can't get the heart of the black dragon. Not everyone is like him, possessing the powerful skill of Sky defeating Bone Dragon. No, it is a powerful skill for all magical creatures. Kiki, that's true. Bai Yi's words made Zybal cover her mouth and smile, deeply agreeing with it. This is not agreement. As a pillow person, she knows Bai Yi's strength very well. Although the level is weak, like those geniuses in the past, they have the ability to fight beyond the level. And this strength is reflected in various aspects. Call. After taking a deep breath, Bai Yi became familiar with the feeling of strength after his body was enhanced. Then he picked up his phone and looked at the screen. He discovered the specific changes in his talent and other things, and his face became even more delighted. But I didn't expect that the talent was randomly added to the professional talent. Bai Yi murmured, he thought it was his dark darling who would change. As for the synthetic hand, he didn't feel it. Apart from anything else, although the talent of synthetic hand does not indicate its level, a normal person can tell that its level is very high, and ordinary energy cannot change it. Not even a black dragon. Shaking his head, Bai Yi didn't hesitate and immediately clicked on his attributes to check. Open black lens bracket Bai Yi. Close black lens bracket. Extraordinary sequence. Shadowcaster. Close black lens bracket. Level 2. Talent. Synthetic hand. Level 2. Darling of Darkness. Close black lens bracket. Blessing. Level 1. Divine Blood Blessing can be upgraded. Close black lens bracket. Professional skills. Holy Flame, Death Dragon's Gaze, Shadow Energy Cannon, Absorption Shield, Forbidden Spear, Magic Sword, Mage's Hand, Speech Skill. Close black lens bracket. Equipment skills. Magic Source, Exploding Fireball, Slime Summoning, Wild Wind, Magic Surge, Cleansing, and Moonlight. Close black lens bracket. Professional talents. Dragonborn, Shadow Travel. Close black lens bracket. Professional specialization. Super Demon Affinity, Hunting Mark. Close black lens bracket. Equipment: clear bracelet, magma ring, moon robe, black scale armor, wind boots, magic explosion staff, magic necklace, surge ring. Close black lens bracket. Compared to before, his attributes have changed too much. Bai Yi's eyes immediately fell on the professional talent Dragonborn. Previously, this was the basic talent of the mage, meditation. Now, he has become a Dragonborn. With a click, the specific attributes appear in front of you. Open black lens bracket Dragonborn. Close black lens bracket. Explanation: it is rumored that people with dragon blood formed by dragon energy flowing in their bodies are called Dragonborn and awaken the Dragonborn talent. People with this talent will have elemental affinities comparable to dragons, without the need for meditation. The body is constantly absorbing the power of elements floating between heaven and earth and converting it into magic power in the body. Close black lens bracket. At the same time, it also exudes dragon power like a giant dragon, causing mental shock to living creatures. Close black lens bracket. Tisk. Amazing. The previous meditation talent was to rely on meditation to recover when there was no magic power. But you cannot do other things during meditation, otherwise it will be interrupted. However, the Dragonborn's talent is completely different. As long as the magic power is consumed, it is being restored all the time. Bai Yi thought for a while, condensed the magic sword in his hand, and then began to feel it, his eyes shining brightly. The recovery speed is also very fast, at least 3 times that of the meditation state. This recovery speed is terrifying. At least it's like a magic sword. With his recovery speed at the moment, it's enough to last forever. This means that he has no shortage of magic power. For mages, it is undoubtedly a huge improvement. In addition, not to mention that this talent also comes with dragon power. But what Bai Yi is more satisfied with is that the dragon blood flowing in his body is not real dragon blood, but blood formed by condensed energy. As a pure human being, even if there is blood in the body, it must be the blood of one's parents and one's ancestors. Suddenly there is another bloodline, or another species, which will inevitably give people a strange feeling. Shaking his head, Bai Yi took a deep breath and looked forward to the changed specializations, skills, and even additional skills. Super demonic affinity. Close black lens bracket. Explanation: you have a high affinity for elements. All elements will become restless around you, increasing the power of all attribute magic you cast by 10%. At the same time, your spell casting speed will be faster. Close black lens bracket. The gaze of the dead dragon. Close black lens bracket. Explanation: consume magic power to condense the shadow of the death dragon to gaze at the enemy's soul, causing soul damage to the enemy. When killing the enemy, it can absorb the memory fragments in the soul. Close black lens bracket. Dragon language technique. Close black lens bracket. Explanation: it is rumored that the dragon clan has the oldest dragon language. The language contains the oldest power of the dragon clan. It is a language that only a few talented dragons can learn. This skill is a passive skill, which automatically increases the power of the dragon skill by 10%. At the same time, it has prerequisites for learning dragon language magic. Close black lens bracket. Tisk. Is this the heart of the black dragon? These changed abilities are simply more powerful than the last. Quote. Bai Yi's eyes flashed with excitement and he couldn't help but said excitedly. The first is metamagic affinity. Needless to say, this is more violent than elemental affinity. Not only does it directly increase the power of all attribute magic, it also speeds up spell casting. Another key flaw of the mage is the casting speed. The more powerful the magic, the slower the casting speed. But now that he has this specialization, Bai Yi doesn't have to worry about this kind of problem. Of course, the more critical thing is the next 2 skills. One is the gaze of a dead dragon. Before the change, it was the soul-eating hand. After the change, its effect is exactly the same as soul-eating hand. But the difference is that it is more powerful. Secondly, it changed from a single Wangqian body to a group. That's right, it's a group. All creatures under the gaze of the dead dragon will suffer the same effect. This is a skill aimed at the soul, as you can imagine. The effect of improvement is terrifying. As for the final dragon language technique, it was also against the heavens. If it only increases the power of dragon-type magic, it would be okay and powerful, but not to an outrageous level. At least Bai Yi now only has a dragon attribute magic, the gaze of the dead dragon. Magic is not a single attribute. The more powerful the magic, the more attributes it contains. For example, the gaze of the dead dragon has 4 attributes: dragon, darkness, soul and death. Therefore, this magic is very powerful and special. It can be said that every attribute of this skill is very powerful. But this is the only magic that can be related to dragon language. What really matters to Bai Yi is that dragon language is a prerequisite for learning dragon language magic. Just like some skills also have learning conditions, for example, some skills can only be learned by mages, and some skills can only be learned by warriors. Dragon Whisper magic requires you to have Dragon Whisper before you can learn it. Dragon language magic can be understood as the magic of the dragon clan. Its power is self-evident and absolutely powerful. Although Bai Yi still doesn't have any dragon language magic. But it doesn't matter, the most important step has been taken. Is dragon language magic still far away? The worst thing I can do is find more dragon-related materials to synthesize in the future, and try again and again. I guess I can synthesize one anyway, right? Hey, speaking of which, I seem to have a material with dragon attributes. Bai Yi's eyes lit up. He opened his backpack, looked at the dragon vein stone inside, and couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. If the dragon vein stone obtained from the dragon's nest is used to synthesize it, there is a high probability that one can obtain another dragon attribute skill. But what to synthesize is a bit confusing. Many of his current skills have their own uses, but only the magic sword and mage's hand can be considered. However, the magic sword is still okay. The main mage's hand is actually very useful. He doesn't really want to use it to synthesize it. If its effect is changed, he will suffer a lot. After all, the mage's hand allows him to have 2 more arms that are like arms. These arms can be extended, like Luffy's arms in One Piece, and can work wonders when given time. So the best choice is the magic sword. But the magic sword. Bai Yi really likes this skill. The reason is simple. This skill is really cool. Wouldn't it be a pity if it wasn't so handsome after being synthesized? Forget it, let's wait until we get the Kongming stone. Bai Yi shook his head, turned around and began to control the character to condense the magic sword, and slashed directly at the black dragon skeleton. Bang! Sparks fly, but the keel is as motionless as a mountain. Hiss, it is indeed a keel, it is really hard. Bai Yi looked amazed, but his movements did not stop at all. He continued to slash. After 5 or 6 consecutive slashes, a bone suddenly shattered into many small pieces and fell to the ground. After waving his hand, Bai Yi quickly picked up the dragon bones and put them into his backpack. You picked up the black dragon bone. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket black keel. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. The bones left behind by the powerful black dragon after its death have not been destroyed after the erosion of time. They contain the breath and part of the dragon's power. In the eyes of many people, they are the necessary materials for forging powerful weapons, but they may also have some kind of other functions. Close black lens bracket. Not bad, good, another dragon attribute material is available. Bai Yi showed a smile on his face and continued to slash. There is no useful information in the introduction of the black dragon bone, but one that contains the aura and part of the dragon's power is enough to show how powerful it is. This thing is definitely an excellent material. Of course, for Bai Yi, the greater role lies in the dragon bone. There is a high probability that it can be synthesized with some ores, and perhaps some powerful ore with dragon attributes can be obtained. Thinking of this, Bai Yi chopped even more vigorously. It's also faster. It took half an hour to finish all 500 pieces, and a total of almost 150 pieces of black dragon bones were harvested. And after the black keel was finished, surprises were discovered under the corpse day and night. There is actually a dragon vein stone here. Bai Yi looked at the shiny dragon vein stone in the soil under the original skeleton, and quickly picked it up. There were quite a few, 3 in total. Unexpectedly, this dragon vein stone should have been born from the blood of the black dragon, so he himself didn't know it, which was an unexpected surprise for Bai. In this way, he has 4 dragon vein stones, and there are more synthesis options. But then, let's go back first. Bai Yi twisted his neck and didn't go back to the shelter for a while. Speaking of which, he missed Yu Yi a little. After all, it is one's own will to shelter. Being alone in a shelter will inevitably make people feel distressed. There's not much to explore here anyway, so Bai Yi naturally doesn't need to stay long. Although he could still find some treasure chests if he continued to explore, there was not much time left until darkness fell. He had to take advantage of the next time to explore more of the game world. Otherwise, once darkness falls, what will fall around him will be a completely unfamiliar area. After making the decision, he controlled the character to return all the way. Kill some monsters that come to you along the way. Soon, Bai Yi left the dungeon and returned to the familiar cave. Originally, he thought about going to the cave to see if he could encounter dark elves, but he didn't expect that there were no dark elves, but there was one succubus. With a chuckle, Bai Yi stopped paying attention and continued to control the character to rush towards the shelter. After spending a while, he returned to the shelter. Owner. As soon as she entered the shelter, Yi appeared on the screen with a face of surprise. Bai Yi asked with a smile. Yi, how are you? Nothing happened while I was away, right? Yes, master. Yi replied with a serious face. Bai Yi, who originally thought the answer was no, was shocked when he heard this, and then asked quickly. Yi, what's going on? Did a monster discover the shelter? No, master. Yi shook her head and said. There were humans passing by the shelter, but they didn't find the shelter. It's just that during the time you left, the human passed by several times. Originally, Yi was still thinking about what he would do if he discovered the shelter. Unexpectedly, the master came back. Now it's fine, Yi doesn't have to worry. Humanity. Bai Yi was shocked in his heart and immediately frowned. Wanderer, or should I say, player. Although the high probability is the former, the latter cannot be ruled out. After all, although the probability of encountering players in this game is very small, the probability is never zero. Therefore, it is still possible for players to encounter each other. But after thinking for a while, Bai Yi gave the order. Yi, please continue to observe the surroundings. If anyone appears around the shelter again, notify me immediately. Okay, master. Yi nodded obediently. Next, Bai Yi didn't pay too much attention, but started busy with his own things. After all, he had a lot of things to do when he returned to the shelter. But at this moment, there was a knock on the door. Bai Yi's eyes lit up, and he immediately waved to Zybel, and then came to the living room. After taking all the tiger mothers and others into the shelter, he came to the door expectantly and opened the door. Boss. Wang Si's familiar voice sounded, saying hello with a smile on his face. Come in. Bai Yi invited, although he was excited in his heart, he didn't show it on the surface. When Wang Si entered the house and Bai Yi came back from pouring water, he saw a black stone with a purple halo on the table in the living room. Hey, boss, this is the Kongming stone you want. Wang Si scratched his head and introduced. Hearing this, Bai Yi nodded, naturally recognizing the appearance of the Kongming stone. A blazing look flashed in his eyes as he took it in his hand and checked it on his mobile phone. Open black lens bracket Kongming stone. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. Special ores containing the power of space are rumored to be born only in extremely precious metal veins. Occasionally they will fall from the gaps in space. Each piece of Kongming stone is a priceless treasure to any blacksmith, because use it to create precious space equipment. Close black lens bracket. Kongming stone. I didn't expect that in this life, I would get one so easily. Bai Yi took a deep breath, endured the excitement in his heart, put down the Kongming stone and nodded. Yes, it is indeed the Kongming stone. With this Kongming stone, I can help you build an extraordinary piece of equipment as promised. Haha, great, I'm just waiting for your words, boss. Wang Si was overjoyed when he heard this and immediately took out the weapon embryos and materials he had prepared long ago. It's an iron sword. The materials used surprised Bai Yi. Hey, is this the spiritual wind secret gold? Lingfeng secret gold. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. The metal born in the windy land has absorbed the power of the roaring wind and is a natural extraordinary material. Close black lens bracket. The boss is really awesome, you can recognize him. It wasn't to flatter him, but Wang Si was indeed surprised. After all, as far as he knew, not many people knew about this metal. The spiritual wind secret gold was only 3 pieces, but he had spent a lot of money to get it from other people. Bai Yi smiled and didn't explain. He just asked in confusion, remembering the skills Wang Si had mentioned before. I remember you didn't use a bow and arrow. Why did you ask me to forge it this time? Hey, this is not for me. Wang Si touched his nose and said a little embarrassed. Made for my dad. Your dad, right, Wang Si said helplessly. You also know this game. But few people who know this game can refuse to play it. Isn't my father also playing it? And he happens to have a martial arts dream, so he wants to get an extraordinary long sword as a weapon. Weapons so that you can become a knight in the future. I see. Bai Yi heard this and nodded with a smile, indicating that he understood. Then he saw Wang Si taking out 3 blue stones that exuded Lei Hua and grinned. Boss, when making weapons, just use this spiritual wind secret gold. As for these 3 yuan, it's your reward, is it okay? No problem, of course no problem. Bai Yi picked up the blue stone with a hint of joy in his eyes. Thunderstone. Unexpectedly, Wang Si even had this thing in his hand. Just by looking at the name, you can tell that this is a special ore that contains thunder and lightning. Thunder and lightning are usually symbolized as one of the most powerful elements in nature. The role of thunderstone is naturally not small. Equipment made with it usually contains the power zone of reconstruction. But what he didn't expect even more was that Wang Si would take this thing as reward. After all, anyone with a discerning eye can see that the value of the thunderstone is not low. Interesting. Bai Yi chuckled in his heart, and after a change of thought, he understood what Wang Si meant. It's investment again, because it's a dragon. Speaking of which, the Wang family is quite optimistic about themselves and has never stopped in this regard. This made Bai Yi feel a little embarrassed. He was thinking about whether he should be more serious and use 1 more synthesis times to help him synthesize weapons this time. But after thinking about it for a while, Bai Yi's eyes flickered, and he suddenly had an idea in his mind. Looking at Wang Si, who was looking forward to it, Bai Yi asked with a smile. Wang Si, do you lack equipment? Ah, Wang Si looked stunned and didn't react for a while. But then, an excited expression appeared on his face. Boss, what do you mean by this? Don't think too much, I'm not helping you build more equipment. Bai Yi rolled his eyes and said. It's just that I have some extra equipment that I can sell to you, but I don't know if you can come up with what I want. He also has a piece of black scale armor in his hand. It is a waste to keep it in his hand. It is best to trade it as soon as possible in exchange for the materials he wants. Hearing Bai Yi's words, Wang Si was not disappointed at all, but became even more excited. Haha, don't worry, boss. I will definitely want the equipment you want to buy. As for the things you want, you might as well tell me what you need. Although it is not an opportunity for Bai Yi to build equipment. But the equipment Bai Yi sells is also okay. And from what I mean, this equipment is definitely not simple. Otherwise, given his status and net worth, Bai Yi would not feel that he could not provide the resources he wanted. Bai Yi was not polite and said directly, do you have the dragon beast's scales or the dragon beast's heart? Ah, no. Wang Si blinked his eyes and smiled bitterly. I originally thought that what the boss wanted was some special ore, but I didn't expect that it was the material from the dragon beast. He has never even seen a dragon now. But if Bai Yi wants this kind of material, does it mean that he has already seen the dragon? Wang Si couldn't help but wonder in his heart, as a faint glow flashed across his eyes. Bai Yi smiled and said, it doesn't matter, I'm not in a hurry. Anyway, as long as you can find a way to help me find these materials, it doesn't have to be a real dragon, as long as it is related to dragon beasts. Hearing this, Wang Si came back to his senses, nodded quickly, then rubbed his hands and said expectantly. Of course there is no problem with this, but boss, can you let me see what kind of equipment you are going to sell? Okay. Bai Yi naturally didn't mind and took out the equipment immediately. Anyway, I just want to look at it, and I won't let him take it away. Maybe after reading it, I will be more motivated to find materials for myself. As Bai Yi appeared, black scale armor appeared on the table. The black leather armor and its superb appearance attracted Wang Si's attention the moment it appeared, and he immediately felt how extraordinary this leather armor was. But when Bai Yi got it in his hand and used the game to check its attributes, even though he had some guesses in his mind, he still couldn't help but widen his eyes. The fiery look in his eyes was undisguised, and his breathing even became rapid. Nima, it's an artifact. This idea suddenly appeared in Wang Si's mind. This is not a weapon, but armor. For wealthy people, weapons are more important than weapons. Just this attribute, just this effect. If this is achieved, wouldn't the security be full? Wang Si asked with excitement. Boss, am I the only one who knows about this equipment? Right. It was originally because of Wang Si's sincerity that he took it out, so he also informed others of their thoughts. Ha ha ha, then I'll be relieved. Wang Si smiled immediately, breathed a sigh of relief, and immediately promised. Don't worry, boss, just keep this equipment for me. When I get back, I'll have someone help you collect the materials immediately. How about that? I'm waiting for your good news. Wang Si came in a hurry and left in a hurry. When the other party left, Bai Yi picked up the iron sword and materials left by Wang Si. After thinking for a while, he simply clicked to combine it. He had a good sense of Xiao Wang, and he was considered a friend. Treating friends, Bai Yi felt that he had to take care of it, and combined it first to see what he could synthesize. Bring it on. Iron sword plus spiritual wind secret gold. Click compose. Synthesis successful. Close black lens bracket. You have obtained the wind blade sword. Close black lens bracket. Wind blade sword. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. A precious extraordinary weapon that contains the power of wind. It is hard and sharp. It can also increase the power of wind attribute moves to a certain extent and can deliver slashing attacks. Close black lens bracket. Attached skill. Wind blade. Close black lens bracket. Hey, this sword is pretty good. Seeing the introduction of the weapon after the synthesis, Bai Yi looked surprised and subconsciously equipped it on his game character, then came to the watchtower and waved it into the distance. A wind blade slash was launched immediately and flew far away before dissipating. It can be seen that the spiritual wind secret gold is more powerful than I imagined. Just combining it with an iron sword can actually bring about such a big change. Yes, this is enough. Next, just wait for 2 days before handing it over to him. Originally, he thought that if the weapon synthesized for the first time was average, he would use another synthesis opportunity to make it stronger. Now it is no longer needed. After silently memorizing this synthesis method, Bai Yi put the wind blade sword in his backpack and started to get busy. Back in the shelter, Bai Yi took out the drawings. The first is the purification channel. All the materials are ready. The special material is the volcanic stone as Bai Yi decided before. Hold the blueprint, use it against the synthesis box, and put in the materials. Immediately afterwards, a burst of light appeared on the screen. After waiting quietly, a prompt appears. Construction successful. Close black lens bracket. From a god's perspective, Bai Yi saw that after the passage was successfully constructed, a staircase passage appeared at the connection between the watchtower and the shelter. Unlike in the past, if you want to get out of a shelter, you need to climb up the ladder and then walk out of the shelter. But in the current shelter, after entering the watchtower from the outside, there is a downward stairway directly in the watchtower. The passage is entirely composed of white metal walls, with a width of 3 meters in the middle, enough for several people to walk side by side. There are metal gates at the entrance and exit of the passage. After entering the passage, the 2 doors will be closed, and then several jewel-like light bulbs at the top will emit purifying light to purify all the filth on the people in the passage. However, this purification channel also consumes energy. Fortunately, the shelter is now covered with energy transmission lines, and the purification channel was connected the moment it was completed. Bai Yi asked facing the smile on the screen. Ruyi Yuei, can you control the purification channel? Yeah, okay, master. Yuei nodded happily and immediately started performing. With a movement of Yuyi's little hand, the 2 doors of the purification passage automatically closed, and then the light of purification lit up. Seeing this, Bai Yi showed a satisfied smile. Very good. Just as I imagined, with Yu Yizai, it is easy to automate the shelter. Those paved lines have evolved and formed an integral whole with the shelter. As a whole, Yuei, as the will of the shelter, can naturally easily borrow these lines to achieve the effect of controlling every building. When darkness comes to reality in the future, if some electrical appliances are installed, the shelter will definitely be smarter than a modern smart house. Bai Yi didn't waste any time. He clicked on the properties of the shelter and began to check the properties of the newly built purification channel. Purification channel. Close black lens bracket. Description. Special building of the shelter. Close black lens bracket. Entry 1. Purifying light will be released in the channel, which can purify curses, pollution and other factors. Close black lens bracket. Entry 2. Antivirus. The passage will release a breath that is not directed at the living being itself to destroy the virus. Close black lens bracket. Entry 3. Purification and transformation. Viruses, curses, etc. that are purified and eliminated in the channel will automatically be converted into energy and absorbed by the channel for use in the next purification and antivirus. Close black lens bracket. Good. 3 entries made by Yi Smile. Although there are not many entries, each one is very useful, and like the watchtower, it has the effect of absorbing energy. In this way, the purification channel can save a lot of energy consumption in the future and can be self-supplied. There is also a room drawing of an ancient natural tree in the backpack, which is the natural forest. But unfortunately, the materials have not been delivered yet, so we can only delay it for the time being. But Bai Yi had an excited smile on his face. Nothing else. In his backpack, there is also a fetish building card. Thinking of this, Bai Yi took out the building card of the moon well, and his eyes wandered around the shelter, looking for a place to put it. As a well, moon well certainly does not occupy a large area. Originally, Bai Yi wanted to put it in the living room, but he thought it was not very beautiful, so he rejected it. Then after some thinking, he controlled the character to come to the greenhouse. That's right, he decided to build the moon well in a greenhouse. Maybe in the future, if there is more moon water in the moon well, it can be used to water the extraordinary plants in the greenhouse. At this time, there were not many plants in the greenhouse. Apart from Mia's body, there was only a moon tree and some moon grass. The moon trees and moon grass have sprouted buds, making people smile involuntarily. In a dark place, green plants always make people feel happy. Even if he is in reality, reality will eventually turn into darkness, and with the greenhouse, he doesn't have to worry about not seeing the green color derived from nature. Come to the corner of the greenhouse. Bai Yi took out the fetish card, chose to use it, entered the god's perspective, and chose where to place it. The fetish card immediately turned into a piece of white light and fell on the location, turning into a stone well. The surface of the stone well is still covered with moss and filled with the breath of time. Looking down, I can clearly see the water in the well rippling slightly and crystal clear to the bottom. What is shocking is that a bright moon is reflected on the surface of the well water. Moonwell. Close black lens bracket. Description. The God-given building of the shelter. Close black lens bracket. Entry 1. Jiaoyu. The moon well has its own bright moon condensed with the power of the moon, which emits the power of moonlight all the time. The moon goddess is immortal, and the moon will always be there. In the middle of each month, the moon well will emit enough power of the moon, benefiting surrounding plants. Close black lens bracket. Entry 2. Moon water. 500 milliliters of moon water will automatically condense in the moon well every day and can be stored. Close black lens bracket. Entry 3. Guidance from the moon god. The moon well is a divine object given to the dark elves by the goddess of moonlight. When you own the moon well building, it will guide the lost dark elves in the direction of arrival. Close black lens bracket. Entry 4. The moon well is damaged and cannot be activated. Close black lens bracket. Entry 5. The moon well is damaged and cannot be activated. Close black lens bracket. This artifact is damaged to a certain extent. Repair requires a ray of divine power from the moon goddess, moonstone X10, and moon powder X10. Close black lens bracket. Hiss, it is indeed a sacred object, but it is a pity that it is damaged. Bai Yi's eyes were bright and he couldn't help but sigh. 5 entries. This is the building with the most entries he has ever seen. However, 2 entries were not activated due to damage. But even so, the first 3 entries are powerful enough. A condensed moon water. Needless to say, this alone is enough to kill most special buildings instantly. One will emit the breath of the moon in the middle of the month, benefiting the surrounding plants. This is obviously related to plants, and may speed up the growth of plants, or have other effects. It would be fine if it were placed somewhere else, but Bai Yi happens to be placed in the greenhouse, which is perfect and makes it a strong entry. Bai Yi had to smile with pride and said, "No, I'm smart enough. If it were placed elsewhere, the loss would be huge." As for the last entry, Bai Yi doesn't value it very much. The effect of this entry is to attract the arrival of dark elves. After all, Bai Yi hopes to hold the lantern, but he doesn't attach much importance to this. Of course, this does not mean that the ability of this entry is small. Just as powerful, any player would be ecstatic to have a similar entry in their building. After all, this means that there will be a steady stream of wanderers coming. The wanderer represents development and strength. Who can say no? I am afraid it is also because of the effect of this entry that the envelope from the Dark Elf Queen previously stated that this was the hope for the survival of the Dark Elf clan. Because as long as there is this well, as long as there are dark elves in the Dark Land, no matter where they are scattered, there is hope of gathering. As for the repair materials for the moon well, Bai Yi's mouth twitched slightly, and he turned it off after taking a look, without any thought of paying attention. Just kidding, just a ray of the moon goddess's divine power stopped him from thinking about ways to collect materials. Where can he find the moon goddess? Not to mention whether he can find it or not, so what if he finds it? He is not a dark elf. Divine power sounds very precious, and the moon goddess may not give it to him. Not to mention that in addition to the divine power of the moon goddess, other things are also very precious, such as the powder of the shining moon, which he has never heard of. So in the short term, there is no need to have expectations about repairing the moon. Of course, through Moon Well, Bai Yi also made other discoveries. The moon in the moon well still exists, which means that the moon goddess has not fallen yet. Bai Yi touched his chin, his eyes bright. This is good news and also a hope for repairing the moon well. At least, there is a moon well. As long as your luck is not too bad in the future, you will be able to recruit some dark elves sooner or later. As believers of the moon goddess, the dark elves come to live in your shelter and are taken care of by you. They can be regarded as similar to the moon goddess. It's a bit related. When the time comes, if you think of some ways, you may not be unable to obtain divine power. But there is definitely no need to count on it now, there are no dark elves left. Unless there are really dark elves near his shelter, given the huge scope of the Dark Land, it will take a long time to get to him. After admiring the moonlight in the moon well for a while, I went to install the monitoring suit again day and night. And place the display screen in the living room. In this way, if Yi finds any movement outside the shelter in the future, she can observe it at any time through the display screen. Not to mention, the effect of the monitor is quite strong. It was placed at the top of the outside of the watchtower by Bai Yi, and it was protected in the middle with a glass cover. It can isolate the wind and rain, and at the same time, it can rotate 360 degrees to observe the surroundings. After installation, the effect of the watchtower suddenly increased a lot, and you can see farther. By the way, Sibel, come here. Controlling the angle. After returning to the shelter from outside the watchtower, Bai Yi suddenly waved to Zybel. What's wrong, honey? Did you miss me? Zybel walked over with a charming smile, sat beside Bai Yi affectionately, and held his arm. The soft touch makes people feel relaxed. But pinching Zybel's soft and smooth face, Bai Yi felt bad. We have been staying in the room, what do we have to think about? I have something to ask you. You go back to the shelter and I'll make an appointment for you. Contract. Sibel looked confused. Bai Yi nodded and explained. After hearing this, Zybel smiled brightly, and immediately turned into a ray of light and entered the mobile phone, appearing in the shelter. Contracts are not troublesome. After some operations, the contract was successful. Later, Zybel's attributes also appeared in front of him. Open black lens bracket Zybel. Close black lens bracket. Race. Succubus. Close black lens bracket. Level. 2. Close black lens bracket. Bloodline. Divine charm. Close black lens bracket. Extraordinary profession. None. Close black lens bracket. Bloodline binding. Bai Yi. Close black lens bracket. Talent. Bloodline dual cultivation. Double cultivation of people bound to the bloodline can enhance their strength. The stronger the person bound to the bloodline, the stronger the effect of each double cultivation, emotional control, innate. Able to control other people's happiness and sadness. Close black lens bracket. Skills, charm, abyss magic, bloodline burning, eye of gaze. I have to say that Sibel's panel properties can be considered luxurious. Although there are not many skills, in fact, one abyss magic is worth all Bai Yi's skills. Because abyss magic is a general skill, with this skill, as Sibel's strength increases, she will be able to perform more and more abyss magic. This is not the name of a single magic spell, but a type of magic. However, ordinary demons do not have this ability, which shows that Sibel's god-level potential is indeed no joke. Is this the end of the contract? Sibel came out of the shelter and asked curiously. Yeah, what? Is there any problem? Bai Yi smiled and nodded. Zybel raised the corners of her mouth slightly. I thought there would be some changes after the contract. It's just a shelter contract, how can it change? Bai Yi smiled and was about to continue controlling the character when there was a knock on the door. Bai Yi immediately smiled and asked Zybel to stay in the room and not come out, while he went outside and opened the door. This time, it was naturally not Wang Si. It was the official courier who had already picked up the goods from other people, handed them to Bai Yi and left. Bai Yi opened the box, and the bright flowers inside were very eye-catching. Yes, now that we have the things, we can build them. After collecting all the materials in his backpack, Bai Yi returned to the room, took out his mobile phone, and found the blueprint of the natural ancient tree room from his backpack. Immediately select the use of the synthesis box, then put in the materials, and select a room to start building. After clicking start again, light emerges and construction begins. Bai Yi also began to wait patiently. But 2 minutes passed and the construction was completed. Open black lens bracket natural ancient tree room. Close black lens bracket. Description. Special building of the shelter. Close black lens bracket. Entry 1. Falling asleep. When you are tired, you will fall asleep quickly. Close black lens bracket. Entry 2. Comfort. The room will be filled with a light floral fragrance, which will improve your sleep quality, and you will feel comfortable all over after waking up. Close black lens bracket. Entry 3. Nightlife. The quality of your 867 nightlife will improve. Close black lens bracket. Entry 4. Another use of wisdom. Sometimes a flash of inspiration will allow you to discover the use of new postures. Close black lens bracket. Blanche. I knew it. Looking at the final entry, Bai Yi couldn't help but cover his face with a look of helplessness. The wood he used when building this room was centuries-old purple trembling wood that was filled with wisdom. When he was building it, he estimated that the effect of this wood might be used in strange places. I didn't expect this to be the case. 18. What's going on with the inexplicable sense of anticipation? Bai Yi raised the corners of his mouth and continued to read the other 3 entries. Needless to say, it's pretty good. Since it is a room building, the other 3 entries are all related to it. The first and second can improve sleep, and the third and fourth, ahem, don't mention it, everyone knows it. After the construction was completed, Bai Yi found that the room had changed a lot. There is a large bed in the middle, enough for 3 or 4 people to rest. Opposite the bed is a small cabinet, where you can consider putting a TV or something in the future. In addition, the wardrobe, desk, etc. are also very complete, and there is even a red sofa. In addition to these furniture, the most important thing is the ground, which is clean grass. That's right, it's grass, as if there's still soil. But it's very clean and you won't get your feet dirty after stepping on it. The walls in the room are all made of wooden boards, but they are very thick. In addition to the wooden boards, there should be other interlayers and fillers inside, so the sound insulation effect will not be bad. On the walls, there are also cone-colored flowers hanging in some places. Of course, the most important thing is the chandelier above the head, which is also made of flowers. Joe, sleeping here won't give people the feeling of fighting in the field, right? Bai Yi couldn't help but murmured and grinned. He didn't know whether to smile happily or bitterly. After all, this kind of room always feels weird, just like a theme hotel. But to say the same thing, something is wrong. After all, this room is filled with the breath of nature, as if you were in a forest. It's different, but the effect is here. In short, after Bai Yi walked around, he just wanted to say, why hasn't the darkness come yet? It makes me sad to think about such a room but not being able to use it. That's all, it's noon, let's go cook first. Bai Yi sighed, shook his head, and threw away the phone. After all the busy work, it was already noon, and my stomach began to growl at some point. Taking advantage of the fact that there was still an afternoon left today, Bai Yi quickly got up and went to the kitchen, preparing lunch as quickly as possible. After eating and drinking, he continued the game. After leaving the dungeon, it was time to explore in the direction of the ship Mia was on. After all, where Mia was before, there were extraordinary seeds. It would be better not to miss them if possible. And when Bai Yi went to the kitchen and started busy. In a dark place, under the surging black mist like a wave, in an area of mountains. The rumbling sound kept ringing. A beautiful figure is dressed in pitch black leather armor, wrapped around a sexy body, and wearing a black veil. She is carefully lying on an ancient tree, trembling, looking into the distance with fearful eyes, holding her hands tightly. The mouth at the corner of his mouth prevents him from making any sound. In the direction she was looking at, a huge creature was slowly moving forward. Every step is very slow, but every step is hundreds of meters away. And every step made the mountains shake, like an earthquake. If you look closely, you will find that this behemoth is a terrifying giant. It's hundreds of meters high, and it's endlessly visible. It's all white, like the skin of a dead person, which makes people feel inexplicably heartbroken. But the most bizarre thing is the densely packed faces that appear on the back of its huge body. Some are angry, some are sad, some are happy, some are afraid, and all living things are gathered here. On the front, there are pairs of densely packed eyeballs that open or close, making one's scalp numb and fearful at a glance. The strange thing is that as the giant walks, its ribs under its arms seem to have countless black shadow tentacles, looming. This is a terrifying monster that exudes a terrifying aura. Walking on the dark earth makes countless creatures afraid. If Bai Yi were here, he would probably be terrified and recognize the identity of this giant. The strange giant, a monster more terrifying than the infant god of the sun. She kept looking in the direction of the giant, but did not dare to cast her gaze on him for fear of attracting his attention. It wasn't until the giant moved away step by step that she breathed a sigh of relief, as if she had lost all strength, and slumped down on the branch. The delicate face under the veil also showed an expression of surviving the disaster. Her skin color looks dull, not black, just a little purple. This is a dark elf. After resting for a while and waiting for his body to recover from the paralysis caused by the fear just now, he immediately stood up and jumped down from the tree, looking up at the sky. Although she was shrouded in darkness, she knelt down piously, put her hands together on her chest, and whispered piously. The personification of the moon. The supreme being. The God I devoutly believe in. If you are still looking at your loyal followers, please show me the way forward. The endless darkness and endless danger made her physically and mentally exhausted. She no longer knew how long she could hold on. Many times, she wanted to find a quiet place and end her life. But the responsibility she shouldered forced her to grit her teeth and persevere. She prayed as usual, but she didn't pay too much attention. Since the fall of darkness, although the moon goddess did not die like other gods, she seemed to have fallen into a deep sleep and has not responded to the prayers of believers for a long time. As a believer in the gods, she can only hope that the goddess can wake up one day, respond to her loyal followers, and point the way for them. This is also the motivation for many dark elves to persevere in the darkness today. After praying, she was ready to continue heading in one direction aimlessly. But at this moment, her eyes suddenly widened, and vaguely, her vision seemed to pass through layers of darkness and saw a dazzling bright moon. The bright moon hangs high in the sky, but it is slowly going away. Finally, it stopped over an area. She couldn't help but burst into tears. Goddess, you finally woke up from your deep sleep. Is this the response you're giving me? Is that where our hope lies? No one responded. The illusory vision in front of me also disappeared. But there was also a bright smile on her face full of tears. At least the goddess had given instructions. This made her numb heart suddenly come alive, full of hope for the future and motivation to move forward. Gritting her teeth, she stood up with a determined expression. Since the goddess guided me there, it means that there may be other dark elves there. As the divine blood of the dark elves, I cannot be buried in the darkness. Draw your weapon. Her figure merged into the darkness and began to move forward silently in the darkness. At the same time, in many places in the dark lands, some creatures have already seen the light of hope in their eyes, and they are heading in the direction guided by the light of hope. Bai Yi naturally didn't know about this. In the kitchen, he was humming a tune, holding a spoon on his back, with a contented look on his face. After all, he had gained a lot after exploring the dungeon. It was hard not to feel happy after the dungeon exploration trip ended today. After spending an hour, Bai Yi prepared a sumptuous lunch. There are meat and vegetables. Bai Yi also took out the century-old wine that he had found in the Dark Elf Town Castle from his backpack. Take a sip and your mouth will be filled with the sweetness of fruit. This should be a kind of fruit wine. Although it has no special effects, the taste of countless fruits in your mouth after one sip, it is endlessly memorable. Tisk tisk, it's indeed a wine brewed by dark elves. It's delicious. Bai Yi couldn't speak any literate vocabulary and sighed as if he was uneducated. Sibel sat next to Bai Yi, picked up the wine glass, took a sip, and said with a smile, I really didn't expect that after darkness falls, I can still drink fruit wine brewed by the elves. In my memory, even some demons were full of praise for the elves' fruit wine. Quote, although it is not brewed by natural elves, any elves are very skilled in brewing fruit wine, and the dark elves are not bad at it, not to mention that this is 100 years old. Yes, it tastes really good. It tastes so nostalgic. Mia blushed and kept nodding. As she spoke, she drank in small sips. The more she drank, the more she blushed. She felt like she would collapse after a few more sips. Of course, it's still much better than a tiger cub. The little guy took a lick, then fainted on the spot, snoring and sleeping soundly. After hearing Zybayer's words, Bai Yi's eyes not only lit up, but he asked in surprise. All elves can brew. Certainly. Sibel nodded. This is the instinct passed down in the blood of the elves. It can even be said that every elf is born with the ability to brew fruit wine. Isn't this just like monkeys who are born to brew monkey wine? Bai Yi immediately looked at Mia. As if feeling Bai Yi's gaze, Mia raised her head. He turned his head and showed an embarrassed smile. Although Mi and Mia can also eat a little, the taste is not as good as this. And I haven't brewed it for a long time, so it may be rusty. Ha 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 2.0, it doesn't matter, you just need to know how to brew. Tell me what materials you need later and I'll buy them. You can brew them when they come back. 17. Bai Yi laughed. This fruit wine is a good thing. After darkness falls, drinking wine occasionally is also enjoyable. The key is not very intoxicating. And after brewing, you can still sell it. No, you can have more products in your personal store in the future. Come to think of it, there will definitely be a lot of people in need. After all, many people will be stressed by that time and need to drink to relieve their stress, and the benefits are huge. If Bai Yi said so, Kai would have reluctantly agreed. Mia nodded proudly and embarrassedly. After speaking, she lowered her head and took a sip. Then she fell down on the table with a bang, her face as red as a red apple. Well, it looks like it won't work today. Seeing this, Bai Yi shook his head and laughed. He got up and carried the little guy across the room, put him on the bed, and then returned to the living room to enjoy the delicious lunch again. Lunch took an hour to finish. Zybel took the initiative to go to the kitchen to finish washing. This made Bai Yi couldn't help but sigh. Sure enough, there still needs to be a woman at home. As a cook, I hate finishing washing. Now that someone is helping me, even if it's just a small thing, it makes people feel inexplicably refreshed. After resting in the living room for a while, Bai Yi returned to the room. Looking at Mia who was sleeping soundly, Bai Yi gently took the phone, plugged in the charger, and opened the game. Have already eaten. Next, it's time to start game time. In the screen, as Bai Yi came online, Yu Yi quickly appeared in the shelter and said hello. Master, good afternoon. Hello to you, Yue. Bai Yi said hello with a smile, and then started trying to synthesize. Today, the number of synthesis times has only been used once, and there are still 4 times left. Normally, he prefers to save the number of synthesis times until the end of the game, but now that he has some good materials and he just got the Thunder Stone, he has some ideas. Would like to synthesize it. The first is the Thunder Stone. Now, I can try to synthesize a magic sword. Bai Yi raised the corners of his mouth and showed an expectant smile. Before the Thunderstone, he naturally had no idea of synthesizing a magic sword. But now that we have it, it's different. The Thunderstone contains the power of thunder and lightning, while the magic sword is pure magic power and has no attributes. If synthesized, there is a high probability that the magic sword will be attached with the attributes of thunder. The magic sword is already very handsome, but if it is attached with the attribute of thunder, it will be entangled with thunder and lightning. Gee, Bai Yi can't even imagine how cool the special effects must be. As for whether the magic power consumption will increase after synthesis, Bai Yi really doesn't care about this aspect now. He has too many ways to restore magic power now, and with the magic source still there, he doesn't have to worry about magic power consumption at all. And there is a moon well. Although the moon water condensed by the moon well every day is not a lot, it is definitely not a small amount. It is equivalent to the amount of a bottle of mineral water. This is also one of the means to restore magic power. This means that starting from tomorrow, Bai Yi will no longer be short of magic potions. So there is no need to worry anymore. Click on the backpack and choose between day and night. Magic sword plus Thunderstone. Click compose. Rubbing his hands, light emerged under Bai Yi's expectant eyes. Immediately afterwards, a prompt popped up. Synthesis successful. Close black lens bracket. You have gained a new skill, Thunder God Sword. Close black lens bracket. Ha ha ha, sure enough, I knew it. Bai Yi looked at the skill name on the prompt, and a smile suddenly appeared on his face. This name completely proved that his guess was correct. As expected, the magic sword has the attribute of thunder. Without hesitation, he immediately clicked to check it out. Thunder Divine Sword. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. It consumes magic power to condense the magic sword that contains the power of thunder. Thunder symbolizes the power of God and can deliver powerful slashes containing thunder attributes. At the same time, it will cause a more powerful deterrent to spiritual creatures. Close black lens bracket. Looks good. Bai Yi's eyes flashed and he started using it immediately. Sizzle. Thunder condensed in the palm of his hand, and then, a thunder sword emitting thunder slowly took shape. Hey, so handsome. Looking at the Thunder God Sword in his hand, Bai Yi's eyes widened with joy on his face. Compared with the previous magic sword, the Thunder God Sword is undoubtedly more handsome. The magic sword is as pure and dark blue as the magic power, and exudes a shimmering light. It looks like liquid flowing on the surface, which is very beautiful. But compared to it, the Thunder God Sword is even worse. Like the magic sword, the Thunder God Sword is also a giant sword. The whole thing is made up of the same light as thunder. The most important thing is that on the surface of the sword, there are thunder and lightning twining around, like roaring thunder, emitting all the time. With the deterrence of heaven. To sum it up in one sentence, so handsome. And it's more powerful than the magic sword. After all, it contains the attribute of thunder, and thunder itself is a powerful element in nature. As for the magic power consumption, as Bai Yi expected, it became about double that of the magic sword. However, the magic sword itself does not consume much, even if it is doubled, Bai Yi doesn't care. Whoops. Holding the sword, Bai Yi kept swinging it, and the whistling wind made the smile on his face even bigger. After playing for a while, he put away the sword and prepared to go out later to find a monster to test its power. As for now, the synthesis will naturally continue. There are 2 thunder stones left, so there is no need to synthesize the mage's hand for the time being. In terms of equipment, Thunderstone is not a good choice. The most important thing is that some of the abilities and effects of the equipment are useful to me, or my talents have a bonus to it. And in terms of equipment, compared to the Thunderstone, the Dragon Vein Stone may be better. Thinking of this, Bai Yi's eyes flickered and he made a decision. Thunderstone plus Thunderstone. There are only 2 Thunderstones in total, so the combination is a bit bold. But it made Bai Yi full of expectations. After synthesizing the forbidden magic stone from Mithril, Bai Yi was full of expectations for this method of synthesis using the same special materials. Thunderstone is a special ore that is more precious than Mithril. I wonder what it can be synthesized from. Bai Yi's eyes flashed and he clicked to combine. Light emerges. The next moment, the synthesis ends. Synthesis successful. Close black lens bracket. You have obtained the Thunder Source Crystal. Close black lens bracket. Lei Yuan Jing. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. Special gems specially made by mages who are proficient in enchanting skills can be used on weapons and equipment. Later, the equipment can be enchanted with thunder attributes, and there is a probability that the equipment will acquire thunder attribute skills. Close black lens bracket. Tisk, this thing was actually synthesized. Looking at the information in front of him, Bai Yi couldn't help but be startled, then curled his lips with a disappointed expression. I thought something good would be synthesized. The result was a thunder source crystal. Just look at the introduction and you will know that this is an enchanting orb that can enchant equipment, obtain thunder attributes, and have a probability of obtaining skills. Strictly speaking, this is actually a good treasure. But for Bai Yi, the best thing is the material, such as the forbidden magic stone. Although Lei Yuan Jing is not bad, it is somewhat disadvantageous when used for synthesis. After all, he can't deliberately spend 2 thunder stones to synthesize a thunder source crystal, and then use the thunder source crystal to combine it with equipment, skills, etc., right? In this case, it is better to use the thunder stone directly. After all, the effects of the two are almost the same. However, the number of synthesis times this time is not a waste. If you get an additional skill when enchanting, it is not bad. But if you don't acquire skills, you'll be a bit at a loss. But you can also memorize this path. Bai Yi murmured. In the future, if you recruit a thunderstorm mage with the thunder traveling attribute, you might be able to synthesize some thunder source crystals to enhance the opponent's combat effectiveness. As for the current Lei Yuan crystal, I can keep it for now. He himself has no use for it. If someday there is equipment suitable for Tiger Mother to wear, I can enchant Tiger Mother. Bai Yi chuckled. When darkness falls in the future, he will definitely take Tiger Mother out to explore. After all, Tiger Mother is a suitable mount, and it is necessary to enhance Tiger Mother's combat power. Shaking his head, Bai Yi put away the Lei Yuan Jing, and then took out the Dragon Vein Stone. For Dragon Vein Stone, Bai Yi has already had a goal. That is the Magic Explosion Staff. As his main weapon, the Magic Explosion Staff was very effective before. But now, it is a bit unable to keep up with his strength, and its effect on him has become smaller. Of course, this does not refer to the effect of the Magic Explosion Staff itself, but the skills attached to it. Slime summoning is okay. If you encounter some places that may have traps, you can use slime to explore the way, but the power of exploding fireballs is too low. For now, it can't even compare with the Thunder God Sword. So Bai Yi thought to see if he could replace it with Dragon Vein Stone, but if that didn't work, he wouldn't mind synthesizing a staff with new abilities. Of course, Bai Yi is still a little confused. After all, the magic source skill is really useful. If he didn't have this skill in the dungeon before, I'm afraid it would have taken him a few more days to complete the exploration. But after struggling, Bai Yi decided, if there was no Dragonborn, he might not be able to synthesize it. But now that he has Dragonborn and Moon Water, he can accept it even if the magic source skill disappears. Sometimes you have to give up to get something. With Bai Yi click synthesis, a soft glow emanates immediately. Bai Yi looked expectant. Synthesis successful. Close black lens bracket. You have obtained the Dragon Soul Staff. Close black lens bracket. Dragon Soul Staff. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. The staff contains powerful magic power, vaguely accompanied by the roar of the dragon. This is because the remnant soul of the dragon beast is sealed in it, which can consume magic power to summon the remnant soul of the dragon beast to fight for yourself. At the same time, equip the staff during combat, magic power consumption is reduced by 5%. Close black lens bracket. Attached skill 1. Source of magic power. Close black lens bracket. Attached skill 2. Dragon Soul Summoning. Close black lens bracket. Woohoo, take off, ha ha ha. Seeing the effect description of the staff, Bai Yi suddenly smiled with joy. This wave is simply a perfect synthesis. It doesn't get any more perfect than this. Not only does it retain the magic source skill, but it also replaces the slime summoning and exploding fireballs with a Dragon Soul Summoning, which also has the effect of reducing magic power consumption. It's 2 skills turned into 1, but it's definitely worth it. After all, it's the Dragon Soul Summoning now. Bai Yi observed that the sealed dragon soul was not a real dragon, but a dragon beast, which means it is a sub-dragon species, and it is still a remnant soul. It is definitely not as powerful as a real sub-dragon. But as long as it is a dragon beast, even a residual soul is enough for him now. After all, as a dragon beast, no matter how weak it can't be much weaker. Sure enough, my choice was right. Bai Yi grinned and immediately equipped the staff. It's just that I'm still in the shelter and can't try it. I can only continue to synthesize it, and then when I go out to explore after the synthesis is completed, I encounter enemies and try the power of the staff again. After several synthesis times, only one is left. This time, Bai Yi took a deep breath and made a choice directly. Dragon Vein Stone plus Dragon Vein Stone. Click Compose. Light emerges. Synthesis successful. Close black lens bracket. You have obtained the Dragon Blood Crystal. Close black lens bracket. Dragon Blood Crystal. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. This is a soft crystal, which preserves the essence and blood of the dragon and contains the energy of the dragon. After taking it directly, you can rely on absorbing the energy contained in it to strengthen your own body, and there is a very low probability of obtaining the dragon bloodline. Close black lens bracket. Hey, this is amazing. Seeing the item synthesized in the last synthesis today, Bai Yi immediately widened his eyes and said in surprise. 2 Dragon Vein Stones actually synthesized a precious thing that has the effect of heavenly materials and earthly treasures. After taking it, not only can you strengthen your body, but more importantly, you can also have a chance to obtain dragon bloodline. The probability is just a little lower. I tell you clearly that it is extremely low. Obviously, it may be a bit difficult to obtain dragon bloodline. It's a pity. If I knew that Dragon Vein Stone could be synthesized into this thing, I wouldn't have synthesized it into a staff just now. He originally had 4 pieces of Dragon Vein Stone. He used 1 piece to synthesize the staff and 2 pieces to synthesize the Dragon Blood Crystal Stone. He still had 1 piece left. If you don't synthesize the staff, you can synthesize the Dragon's Blood Crystal again. Then you can use 2 Dragon's Blood Crystals to synthesize it again. Maybe you can get better items, at least. This can increase the chance of obtaining Dragon Beast bloodline. Although Bai Yi is very concerned about having the blood of other creatures in his body. But that doesn't mean it's useless. He had previously thought about finding some similar props for Tiger Mother to make her stronger. What could be more suitable than letting Tiger Mother obtain the blood of a giant dragon? What a pity. Bai Yi shook his head and sighed, but still called the Tiger Mother over. What? The Tiger Mother came to the room and yelled at Bai Yi with a confused look on her face. Bai Yi didn't reply, just took out the Dragon Blood Crystal. Suddenly, Tiger Mother's eyes became intense, her breathing became much faster, and she revealed a trace of undisguised desire. It seems that you also feel that this is a good thing. Bai Yi raised the corners of his mouth and smiled lightly. Hearing this, the Tiger Mother nodded repeatedly, looked at Bai Yi and roared, asking if this was for her. Of course, if I call you here, I will naturally give it to you. Bai Yi rubbed the soft hair on Tiger Mother's head and smiled. I hope you can successfully obtain the dragon bloodline after taking it. If this is true, Tiger Mother's strength will definitely skyrocket, and her safety will be guaranteed even after darkness falls. With that said, he handed over the Dragon Blood Crystal. The Tiger Mother didn't quite understand the meaning of Bai Yi's words, but this crystal made her feel the desire from the depths of her blood, so she swallowed it without hesitation. The next moment, he let out a painful roar and lay down at Bai Yi's feet, welcoming the transformation brought about by the Dragon Blood Crystal. Bai Yi observed for a moment, and after confirming that the Tiger Mother was not in danger, he relaxed and continued his game. After the last number of synthesis times was used up, it was time for him to leave the shelter and explore. Yu Yi, I'm going out, and the shelter will be left to you. Bai Yi instructed Yu Yi on the screen. Hearing this, Yu Yi nodded obediently. Okay, master, please feel free to leave it to me. Bai Yi smiled slightly, said no more, controlled the character to go through the purification passage, came to the watchtower, opened the door and walked out. The surging black fog, the pitch-black environment. Bai Yi took a deep breath, controlled the character and set off, choosing the direction in which the previous ship might have come. He wanted to see if he could find the underground place where Mia lived before. Along the way, there are constant monsters. The monsters in the Dark Land, just like the monsters in the game world, will be constantly refreshed. Of course, the corruptors will be gone if you kill them. After all, monsters like the corruptors are transformed from living beings. They are mainly monsters born in the Black Mist. In the previous life, there were rumors that the Black Mist was condensed from the evil god's energy. If the Black Mist does not dissipate, it means that the evil god's energy will always exist. As for the existence of the evil god's energy, monsters will be born from it continuously. Zila, the Thunder Divine Sword condensed in his hand, Bai Yi slashed out with one sword, and a blue thunderous half-moon slash suddenly condensed and exploded. With a pop, a twisted creature in front was killed on the spot, turning into a thick black fog and dissipating. That is a monster called the Mist Ghost, which was born in the Black Mist. After killing it, it will turn into the Black Mist and dissipate, so it cannot be collected. They are weak in strength, but in an environment like Black Fog, they are very suitable for hiding their figures. It is difficult for people to detect them without actively appearing. If one is not careful, a powerful person will be tricked by the other party. Bai Yi looked stern, holding the Thunder God Sword, walking in the Black Mist. With a roar, a pitch-black ghost claw suddenly stretched out from the black mist behind him and stabbed straight towards Bai Yi's heart. But Bai Yi reacted quickly and immediately turned around and struck out with his sword. Cheer! A fog ghost was split into two. I didn't encounter many fog ghosts before, but now I have more of them. Bai Yi felt a little weird, but didn't pay too much attention. After all, the fog ghost poses no threat to him, so it is a disaster for some ordinary players. Shaking his head, he continued to move forward, passing the area that led to the dungeon before, and explored further, and finally a big mountain appeared in front of him. Is it here? Bai Yi looked at the mountains with expectant eyes. This place is quite far away from the shelter, but he was running at full speed and using the gust wind skill, so it didn't take him much time to get here. If Mia's previous residence was on this mountain, then she might get some unexpected surprises today. Thinking of this, Bai Yi raised the corners of his mouth and walked towards the mountain. Just a few steps into the mountain, there was a roar, and a giant python covered in ulcers, but looking like it was wearing bone armor and polluted by fog, pounced. The huge body is heart-stopping. But Bai Yi killed the big python with a backhand sword, and a happy smile appeared on his face immediately. Yes, although it's a bit courting death, at least it brought me 10 precious shields. 1. Looking at the mountain in front of him, Bai Yi moved his eyes upward and looked at the position before the python came. It was a big tree. On the trunk of the tree, a bronze treasure box was lying there quietly. Of course, before opening the treasure chest, the body of the big snake cannot be let go. Collection. Collection is successful. You have obtained contaminated meat X3, poisonous snake bone X1, and ulcerated snake skin X1. Close black lens bracket. Tisk. Garbage. Bai Yi looked at the information of the collected items and curled his lips. They were all useless garbage. That is to say, the poisonous snake bones were somewhat useful. They contained highly toxic substances. If they want to synthesize props related to this in the future, they could be used. Get on. Shaking his head, Bai Yi dispersed the Thunder God Sword, switched out the Dragon Soul Staff, and used the Mage's Hand. The magic arm condensed and extended up to take down the treasure box. A bronze treasure chest was not worth Bai Yi's expectations, so he opened it directly. There was a crash. Light emerged from the treasure box, and then a prompt appeared on the screen. You opened the bronze treasure chest and obtained X1 map and X1 white bear carpet. Close black lens bracket. Hey, map, carpet. Bai Yi's eyes were bright and he immediately checked, then the corners of his mouth raised, revealing a happy smile. That's right. Although the things I've given out don't improve the combat effectiveness, it's just what's needed. Needless to say, I got the animated picture before in the Dark Elf town. After using it, I can get a detailed map of the area under my feet. It is no exaggeration to say that it is really in the auxiliary collection. Because in a place like the Dark Land, there are dangers everywhere, and it is too easy to get lost in it. Even if Bai Yi has a lantern of hope, although he will not lose his direction, it is still easy to miss some key locations, just like some game's hidden area inside. But with this thing, you don't have to worry at all. You can directly open the god's perspective and everything will appear in front of you. Unfortunately, this thing cannot be made and can only be opened from the treasure chest. As for the carpet, it's okay. The white bear carpet can be regarded as a luxury product. If you go back and put it in the living room of the shelter, as you accumulate more of it, the comfort level will be improved sooner or later. Without hesitation, Bai Yi used the map directly. The flames began to burn in the upper right corner of the map. Wherever the flames passed, clear mountain marks began to appear on the map. All roads in the mountains, whether natural or acquired, were clearly visible. This is true wherever there are caves, buildings, etc. Cave architecture. Bai Yi's eyes lit up and he immediately observed carefully. This mountain doesn't look big, but there are quite a few caves. There are 3 in total, 1 in front, 1 in the middle of the mountain, and 1 on the top of the mountain. As for the building, this location is actually inside the mountain. Is it a ruin? Such speculations came to mind. Bai Yi couldn't help but breathe quickly. If it were really a relic, it would be a huge profit. After all, the harvest from the previous ruins is still vivid in my mind. Let's go to the cave first. As for the ruins, the entrance is on the other side of the mountain, so there's no rush. Bai Yi took a deep breath, put away the map, and ran towards the first cave not far away. After a while, we arrived outside the cave. Stopping and looking at the cave, Bai Yi saw a pair of green lights faintly glowing inside before entering. Roar! With a roar, a polluted black bear suddenly rushed out and attacked fiercely. Just in time, Bai Yi raised the corners of his mouth, without any fear, and quickly waved the staff. His heart moved. Dragon Soul Summons. Roar! A dragon roar suddenly sounded. I saw a fiery red light emerging from the staff, and soon it turned into a lion-like sub-dragon beast with a dragon head. It was covered in fiery red hair. At first glance, it looked like a fire unicorn. It breathed out, like flames spitting out. Not surprisingly, this should be an extraordinary beast hybridized between a giant dragon and a dragon. Go ahead and fix it. Bai Yi gave an order, and the fire lion roared immediately. As he opened his mouth, flames surged out, erupting like a dragon's breath, turning into waves of fire and sweeping forward. As the black bear howled, in the blink of an eye, the black bear was burned alive and turned into a charred corpse. This power, ha ha ha, is indeed powerful. Bai Yi's eyes showed surprise and Rizao smiled with satisfaction. As he expected, even the remnant soul of a dragon beast was extremely powerful, at least for low-level creatures. Not to mention anything else, the power of the skill exploded by this fire lion does not seem to be weaker than the second level. In addition, the extraordinary beast's already powerful body still has the blood of a giant dragon. Even if it is a remnant soul, it is not weak in this aspect. Not weak. So why there is a level 3 strength, which is very powerful. But for Bai Yi, the most important thing is that this fire lion is glowing with fire. It is like bringing a big torch, so that he can explore the way ahead. I just don't know if I can be a mount. Bai Yi thought in his mind, ready to make a move, thinking he could try it later. If you can still ride it, then this residual soul will be of great use. Forget it, we'll talk about it later. Let's go into the cave and have a look. Bai Yi shook his head, returned to his senses, and walked towards the cave. When passing by the red lion, Bai Yi stopped, looked over, touched his chin and thought for a while, then said seriously. The last Zhao Hong is gone, so you can take over this name and become the new Zhao Hong. Red lion, what words, what are you talking about? Why does it give me a bad feeling? The red lion sneezed and nodded with a helpless expression. Seeing this, Bai Yi grinned and subconsciously touched Zhao Hong's head. Not to mention, although it is a remnant soul, it may be due to magic power or its own special nature, and the entity can be felt to the touch. When Bai Yi touched his head with his hand, the flame on Zhao Hong's head was still burning and did not cause any harm to him. This made him squint his eyes. It looked like the red lion could really be ridden. Unlike Tiger Mom, although Tiger Mom can ride, she is really dead when she dies. The red lion is a summoned object. It can be summoned again even if it dies, so there is no need to worry. With Zhao Hong here, it seems that it will be more convenient to explore in the future. Quote. Bai Yi smiled, retracted his hand, and walked towards the cave. Zhao Hong followed closely, and the fire on her body illuminated the cave. This should be the previous black bear's lair. It's a mess and there are many bones, both human and animal. But Bai Yi had sharp eyes and saw at a glance deep in the cave, a shining silver treasure box, and there were many human utensils beside the treasure box. Tableware, tables and chairs, etc. Bai Yi's eyes were bright and he immediately walked over and looked at these utensils. They are all made of wood and have some carved patterns, which look exquisite but of little value. But when Bai Yi looked up at the wall, he found a line of civil servants left on the wall. Wanderers, this is the Flower Elf Wandering Group. If you find this message, please go to the cave on the mountain. The flood is coming and we have moved to a higher place. Flower Elf Wandering Group. Bai Yi looked stunned, and then immediately shouted in the direction of the living room. Mia, come here quickly. Come on, come on. Mia responded hurriedly, then flew in and asked curiously. Bai Yi, why are you calling me? Geez. Nothing, I want to ask you something. Bai Yi asked. Is the group of people you were following before, the Beggar Elf Wandering Group? Yes, Bai Yi, how did you know? ? Mia's eyes lit up and she nodded quickly. Bai Yi smiled. Because I discovered the message they left. As expected, I will soon find the seeds of the extraordinary plant you mentioned before. Hearing this, Mia suddenly showed a happy expression and asked Bai Yi to come on. For a flower elf like Mia, who focuses all her abilities on planting, she really likes farming. Although I play games every day now, most of them are farming games. Real farming. For example, in Plants vs. Zombies, in Mia's eyes, the focus is not on fighting zombies, but on growing plants. That is to say, the shelter is too deserted at the moment, and Bai Yi can't get in, otherwise Mia will definitely stay in the greenhouse with her mobile phone in her hand every day and not come out. For this reason, she had previously asked Bai Yi to remember to help her install a socket in the greenhouse so that she could charge her mobile phone more conveniently. After confirming the information from Mia, Bai Yi continued to focus on the game. It's a pity. It's not far from my shelter. If these guys had been more lucky, they might have set off earlier. Bai Yi looked at the message on the wall and couldn't help but sigh. If you set out earlier, or if you were lucky, you might actually be able to reach your shelter alive. But now that everyone is dead, it is useless to say this. Bai Yi could only calm down, looked at the silver treasure chest, rubbed his hands, and opened it, with a look of anticipation on his face. You opened the silver treasure chest and obtained the basic mage professional runes. Close black lens bracket. Looking at the runes in the treasure chest, Bai Yi looked surprised and immediately picked it up. I didn't expect that a professional rune was actually opened, which is pretty good. And it came in good time. Basic professional runes are useless to Bai Yi. Even if it is synthesized once, it will be useless. The reason is simple. After the basic professional runes, there are first-level professional runes, and after the first-level runes, there are second-level runes. For players, to improve their strength, they need higher-level runes for their profession. If Bai Yi wants to improve his level, he needs to synthesize it with basic professional runes at least twice, but it's not 100%, it's just possible. Because in Bai Yi's guess, after the basic professional runes are synthesized twice, they may become second-level professional runes, but it is not certain. After all, I haven't tried it. However, this professional rune is still useful to Bai Yi. Just because he doesn't need it doesn't mean others don't need it. For example, Zybel, as a succubus, is a spell caster. If she can obtain the mage professional runes, her combat power will undoubtedly become more powerful. Therefore, after Bai Yi's eyes flickered, he called Zybel. Zybel, come here, I found a good thing for you. Good stuff. What is it? Zybel came over curiously, sat next to Bai Yi, and held his arm. Bai Yi raised the corners of his mouth, showed the professional runes, and said with a smile, is a professional rune. What is the professional rune? Zybel didn't know much about these yet, so there was doubt in her eyes. Bai Yi explained. After listening, Zybel's face suddenly showed a shocked expression. Is this your extraordinary system? It's unbelievable that it's so powerful. It would be fine if it were just basic professional runes, but there are first level, second level, and even third level, fourth level, and fifth level professional runes behind it. This was simply unbelievable to Zybel. The reason is simple. This extraordinary system completely allows players to have combat power that far exceeds their system when they are at a certain level. 353 is like a mage in the dark land. Once the magic power is reached, he can naturally change from a first-level mage to a second-level mage. But what about the players? As a first-level mage, I have a talent, a specialization, and a skill. When I reach the second level, I have another talent, a specialization, and a skill. And you can continue to learn new skills. You must know that for mages in the Dark Land, having one talent is very powerful, let alone two. And if you continue to advance according to this system, you may end up with 7 or 8 professional talents and professional specializations. The combat power bonus this brings is simply unimaginable. By then, I am afraid that any player will be equivalent to the genius in their world in the past. But if it's just like this, Zybel can't accept it. The most important thing is that this world is just an ordinary world without extraordinary power. Bai Yi frowned and understood the reason for Zybel's shock, but after thinking about it, he shook his head and smiled. Why are you thinking so much? When you are weak, just focus on the present. It's not like you are trying to save the world. Thinking too much will only increase your worries. Do you still want these professional runes? Yes, of course I do. My dear gave it to me, how could I refuse? Hearing this, Zybel also came back to her senses, and quickly pressed close to Bai Yi and smiled softly. What Bai Yi said made her realize. Indeed, it's almost enough to be shocked. You know your own strength, so why do you want to save the world? After taking the professional rune, Zybel asked how to use it. After Bai Yi introduced it, Zybel nodded to express his understanding, and then used the professional rune. A blue light immediately appeared on Zybel's body and enveloped her. Soon, the light dissipated. This kind of power. Honey, I love you so much, haha. Zybel felt the changes in her body, and immediately couldn't help but hold Bai Yi in her arms and give her a passionate French kiss, venting her inner excitement. Although the basic mage professional runes can only bring her elemental affinity, meditation, and fireball. But it was also a feeling she had never experienced before. And even though her level is already quite high, both meditation and elemental affinity have improved her strength a lot. What's more important is that now that you are using basic professional runes, you can continue to advance in the future, and then you will be able to get more powerful talents and specializations. How great is that? Bai Yi hugged Zybel's soft waist and smiled lightly. Aha! Zybel nodded repeatedly. She was clearly an aggressive sister in appearance, but at this moment she was sitting in Bai Yi's arms, looking as obedient as a soft girl. 2 words. Tempting. Bai Yi couldn't help lowering his head to taste the red lips. After some tenderness, when Bai Yi was thinking about continuing to play the game, a light blue light suddenly burst out from the tiger mother lying beside the bed. Faintly, there is also a cold and biting aura emanating, accompanied by an even more coercive pressure. Long way. Both Bai Yi and Zybel had surprised expressions on their faces. Did it really succeed? Bai Yi was even more shocked. After all, dragon blood crystals only have a very small chance of obtaining dragon bloodline. If there is a series of data to explain this, Bai Yi estimates that the highest it is 1 in 10,000. If it is lower, it may be 1 in 100,000. Hiss, is the tiger mother the rumored tiger of destiny? Bai Yi couldn't help but have random thoughts in his mind. But he quickly suppressed it and looked at Tiger Mother. Because at this moment, the light on Tiger Mother's body began to dissipate, and there were slight changes in her body. First, a pair of white horns began to grow on the Tiger Mother's head, which looked like ice formations and was very beautiful. At the same time, the hair changed. The Tiger Mother was originally a white tiger, and the stripes on her body were white and black, but now they all changed to white and blue, and the blue was a light blue like ice. In some places, shiny blue scales grew out and were connected to each other, as if they were turned into a set of leather armor and worn on the body. Compared to before, he is much more handsome and looks majestic. When the change was over, the Tiger Mother's aura increased a lot for a while, and then she opened her eyes, revealing a pair of pupils that looked like giant dragons. Very intimidating. Of course, it is of no use to Bai Yi. And when she opened her eyes and saw Bai Yi for the first time, the Tiger Mother made a sound of joy, threw Bai Yi down at once, and kept licking Bai Yi's face to express her inner excitement. It naturally feels its own changes. It is much more powerful than before. This is all brought to it by Bai Yi. As a beast, he has never been so frivolous and repays his kindness. The Tiger Mother, who was already very close to Bai Yi, suddenly became even closer. Okay, Tiger Mom, stop licking me. If you keep licking me, I will turn into ice cubes. Bai Yi covered his face and pushed the Tiger Mother away helplessly. He didn't know whether Tiger Mother's other aspects had improved after her increased strength, but the cold was worse ACAG with a cold air on her tongue. If it's summer, there's no need to turn on the air conditioner, just hug the Tiger Mother and sleep. Ho, thank you, Bai Yi. The Tiger Mother climbed up and still couldn't help but roared at Bai Yi with excitement. Bai Yerua slapped the Tiger Mother's head and asked with a smile. No need to thank you. We have joined the shelter and we are family. We don't want to talk about this. But now that you have dragon bloodline, are there any changes in your abilities? Ho, yes, I'm very strong now. I know you are very strong, what I want to ask about is your ability. Roar, okay, I'd better not ask any more. I'll see for myself when I get back to the shelter. Looking at the confused face of the Tiger Mother, Bai Yi sent her to the living room. Obviously, Tiger Mother's strength suddenly increased, and she still doesn't fully understand the changes in her abilities, so she can only wait until she returns to the shelter and then check Tiger Mother's information to find out. But what is certain is that the level of the Tiger Mother has definitely improved, and there should be a third level. Maybe nothing in the dark place. But when darkness comes to reality, this will definitely be a trump card. In the early days of darkness, there were not so many powerful monsters appearing. Darkness represented the invasion of evil gods. This was a process of cannibalization. Along with the encroachment, the monster's strength will become stronger and stronger. Of course, weirdness is another story. That thing was something that few people could figure out in the previous life. Anyway, with Tiger Mother in hand, Zybal, and his own strength, Bai Yi is confident that he can push forward when darkness falls. Any enemy or careerist who dares to cause trouble for him will be killed by him. Tisk, with the example of Tiger Mother, I feel like I can collect more dragon vein stones in the future. Bai Yi said with joy in his heart. When the time comes, if you synthesize more, you might be able to purify the dragon bloodline in Tiger Mother's body and make it stronger and stronger. It may not be impossible to actually evolve into 10 real electric dragons in the future. In addition to the Tiger Mother, the Tiger Cubs can also be enhanced. In order to prevent the Tiger Mother from becoming more and more satisfied with herself in the future, and the less like her own son with her son. Even if we collect more extraordinary beasts in the future, we might be able to create a dragon army through dragon vein stones. Thinking about the scene in which I control a huge dragon in the future. Hiss. Don't tell me, I'm looking forward to it. After coming back to his senses, Bai Yi looked at Zybal, who was looking at him eagerly in his arms, and couldn't help but wonder. What's wrong with you? Zybal shook her head and asked. Did Tiger Mother turn into a dragon beast just now? Yes, baby, I want it too. You're a charmer, you want hammer dragon bloodline. That's the bloodline of a giant dragon. What's wrong with someone who is a god? Anyway, as long as he can become stronger, and demons are very tolerant, they might be able to derive new demonic bloodlines. Huh, after hearing Zybayer's words, he couldn't help but think deeply day and night. It doesn't sound like it's impossible. And it looks like it's a head start. But where can I find dragon vein stone now? Bai Yi said helplessly. Let's talk about it later. The dragon's blood crystal I just gave to Tiger Mother is the same. There aren't many more now. And, Bai Yi pinched Zybayer's smooth face and felt angry. Where did you learn how to call baby? Don't tell me that all the demons in the abyss are called that. Kiki, of course I learned it from the mobile phone. How about it, honey, do you like it? Sibel covered her mouth and smiled. In addition to this title, I also saw a lot of interesting content. I remember it was called a video. If you need it, I can show it all to you. For Zybal, who was exposed to mobile phones for the first time, mobile phones undoubtedly opened the door to a new world. All kinds of new knowledge are dazzling. But she accepted it quickly and kept learning. Some titles were secondary, and she also learned a lot from some internet memes. Now I am still trying to watch live broadcasts and movies. I can also switch the screen to watch movies and read books at the same time. I am doing 2 things at once, and I can learn faster. Bai Yi asked curiously. What video were you watching? Madhu. 6. Is this the succubus? Sure enough, in this regard, no one can match Ceci. Without a teacher, I found the rumored website that ordinary people could not find. I gave you a mobile phone to let you learn, not to watch useless content every day. Bai Yi's eyes widened, and he immediately gave Zybel a harsh lesson, and expressed his disdain for those videos. After spitting, Bai Yi picked up his phone, opened the browser, and said calmly, "Send me the URL." Hearing this, Zybel rolled her eyes. After accepting the website sent from Zybuyer, Bai Yi clicked on the game with a smile and continued to control the character to leave the cave and walk towards the mountain. There are 2 caves on this mountain. The first cave gave him a good start. I don't know if there will be any harvest in the next 2 caves. What Bai Yi hopes most now is to get another mage weapon or a first-level professional rune. After all, he already has excellent materials for professional runes on hand. Kong Ming Stone. Some professional runes depend on luck, so Bai Yi can only think about it. After taking a deep breath, he calmed down and controlled the character to turn over and ride on Xiao Hong's body. Really, the flames on Xiao Hong's body seemed to be controllable and unable to cause harm to him. After learning this, Bai Yi couldn't help but smile on his face and ordered, "Xiao Hong, let's go and explore the mountains." Roar. With a roar in response, Xiao Hong immediately ran, covered in flames in the darkness, looking extremely eye-catching. At the same time, Xiao Hong's speed was also very fast, like a gust of wind passing by. It is a dragon beast after all. Probably because of the fire, when Bai Yi set off on Xiao Hong, he also attracted many monster attacks. However, Bai Yi didn't need to take action on these monsters. Xiao Hong slapped out with his claws, accompanied by flames, which was enough to kill them. Following the route on the map, after a while, the cave halfway up the mountain appeared in view. Compared to the previous cave, there are no wild animals living here. "Let's go in and take a look," Bai Yi ordered. Xiao Hong nodded and rode Bai Yi into the cave. Under the firelight, everything in the cave was clearly visible. Sure enough, this should also be the place where the Flower Elf wandering group lived. Bai Yi came to the depths and looked at the words carved on the wall, his eyes lit up. Here, he saw some traces of human life and some furniture, but what surprised him the most was a treasure box lying quietly in the corner. Although it was not silver, it was still a bronze treasure chest, which put a satisfied smile on his face. Continuing to look at the wall, the engraved text is clearly visible. "Unknown wanderers, floods and natural disasters are becoming more and more terrible. We can only continue to move to higher places. Please go to the top of the mountain to find us. Our Flower Elf wandering group welcomes any friendly creatures to join us and work together to fight in the darkness. Stay alive." Regarding the content of the text, Bai Yi did not have any surprises. After discovering something in the first cave, he guessed that the 3 caves marked on the map in this mountain were probably opened by the wandering group of Flower Elves. At first, they lived at the foot of the mountain. Later, the flood came and reached the mountainside. However, they never thought that the flood would turn into a natural disaster and become more violent and terrifying. Even the mountainside was swallowed up, so they could only go to the top of the mountain. But they didn't want the flood to swallow up the mountains in the end. In desperation, they chose to leave by boat. In the end, he died under a natural disaster, and only Mia, a Flower Elf, survived. After searching in the cave to confirm that nothing else was missing, Bai Yi came to the treasure chest and reached out to open it. Wow, the light blooms. Under Bai Yi's expectant gaze, the items inside appeared in front of him. You opened the bronze treasure chest and obtained the skill rune onomatopoeia and the iron sword. Close black lens bracket. Skill runes. Bai Yi looked overjoyed when he saw that there was an unexpected surprise in the bronze treasure box. But after checking the information, Bai Yi's face fell again. Skill rune onomatopoeia. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. Universal skill runes can be used by all professionals or non-professionals. After learning, you can obtain onomatopoeia skills and simulate all the sounds you have heard. Close black lens bracket. What a rubbish skill. This was the first time he had seen such a rubbish skill. It has no function, not even synthetic value. At least Bai Yi doesn't see any synthetic value in this rune. Forget it if it were a normal world. In that case, this skill would actually be of some use. But in the Dark Land, there is no room for this skill to be used. Apart from being able to deceive players, it can only be deceived once. If it has no power, smart players will immediately notice it. Besides, you can't use it to trick monsters, right? Monsters are irrational. You can deceive them with your voice. Unless it is matched with the corresponding aura. For example, the voice that simulates the baby god can exude the aura of the baby god. In that case, this skill is actually quite powerful. Skills. Unfortunately, it can only simulate sound. As for cheating homeless people, it's even more unnecessary. After all, it's too late for the wanderer to be happy to see you, and he has no ill intentions toward you, so why should you lie to him? So, it's useless. But everything was in hand, and Bai Yi didn't want to waste it, so he could only get up and walk to the living room, looked at Mia and asked. Mia, there is a skill here, do you need it? Skills? What skills? Mia raised her head with a blank look in her eyes. Bai Yi explained, and Mia suddenly looked disgusted. No, Mia doesn't have any interest. Damn, it is indeed a rubbish skill, even Mia dislikes it. For a moment, Bai Yi pouted, wondering if he should sell it, but he was afraid that no one would want it, which would be a pain in the ass. But at this time, an excited voice sounded from behind. Bai Yi, can you give me this skill rune? I want to learn it. It's Sibel. Bai Yi turned around and looked at Zybel, who looked excited. Bai Yi looked confused. What are you? An ordinary skill wouldn't make you so excited, would it? I want. She took a step forward and got close to Bai Yi, making no secret of her interest in this skill. Seeing this, Bai Yi couldn't help but become curious. Can I ask why? Zybel's eyes were watery. She licked her lips and whispered in Bai Yi's ear. I found a profession called voice acting on the internet. The ability to make various sounds is amazing. I think you will like it, but I don't, so I plan to give up. But I didn't expect that you just got such a skill, and the effect seems to be better. Voice actor, hiss. Bai Yi took a deep breath and looked at Zybel in shock. Is this the succubus? Sure enough, the idea is amazing, why didn't I think of this usage? Here you go, use it quickly. Bai Yi immediately handed over the rune with a look of anticipation on his face. Don't get me wrong, he is a gentleman, he just wants to see what it feels like for a succubus of the royal sister type to make a soft and cute Lolita sound. Seeing Bai Yi's expectant look, Zybel smiled charmingly, took the rune and used it immediately. Then she pulled Bai Yi into the room and let Bai Yi experience it. How should I put it, this experience could not help but last 10 hours. Bai Yi put on his clothes and gave a thumbs up to the sleeping Zybel, expressing his satisfaction. Not bad, this onomatopoeia skill is simply magical. Bai Yi picked up the phone and returned to the game. He couldn't stop praising the effect of this skill, completely forgetting that he looked disgusted and talked trash before. Even Bai Yi wanted to see if he could get a changing skill in the future. When the time comes, it will be paired with onomatopoeia. Damn it, who can resist this? Bai Yi decisively entered the forum and directly posted a post about acquiring these two skill runes. Although there is onomatopoeia, Bai Yi feels it is not enough. This magical skill definitely requires more preparation. No matter what, you have to make sure that you have a lot of women in the future. When the time comes. Damn it, I can't think about it anymore. Sure enough, drinking and promiscuity will only delay my time to play games. Starting today, I will quit drinking. Bai Yi shook his head, took a deep breath, and began to focus on the game. In addition to the onomatopoeia skills, there was also an iron sword, which was of no use. There was no one using swords in the shelter at this stage, so Bai Yi threw it directly into my shop. Then ride Xiao Hong to the top of the mountain and go directly to the last cave. I have to say that after having Xiao Hong, it is much easier to travel. All he needs to do is sit on Xiao Hong, and he doesn't need to worry about the rest. You can even hang up. After exploring this last cave, we can almost return to the shelter. Bai Yi looked at the time and couldn't help but murmured. If it were before, he would probably end it after exploring outside until his character dies. But not now. There may be other players near the shelter. Before he figures it out, Bai Yi can't stay outside for too long, otherwise if he doesn't get it right, his home will be stolen, which is a real loss to the thief. Fortunately, now that Xiao Hong is here, with Xiao Hong's foot power, she can rush down at full speed and it won't take long to return to the shelter. And after he finishes exploring the buildings on the other side of the mountain, he will clean up the area around the shelter and find the figure that Yu Yi noticed before. 0. Please ask for flowers. When Bai Yi was deep in thought, there was a roar, and Zhao Hong roared, waking up Bai Yi. Looking up, I realized that I had arrived at my destination. Unknowingly, he had arrived at the top of the mountain and saw the cave in front of him. Outside the cave, there is a very wide open space, where many traces of human life can be seen, and there is even a cultivated field. However, most of the inside is sunken. It seems that this is where the flower elf wandering group planted before. After leaving by boat, the soil was also taken away. Go into the cave. Bai Yi ordered Zhao Hong underneath him. There is basically nothing of value outside the cave, which can be seen clearly at a glance. Roar. Zhao Hong nodded and took Bai Yi into the cave. Suddenly, a ray of surprise flashed in front of Bai Yi's eyes. Treasure chest. Another treasure chest. And this time, it turned out to be a gold treasure chest, lying quietly in the middle of the cave. Just when Bai Yi was about to let Zhao Hong come closer, suddenly, Zhao Hong lowered her body and let out a roar. Ha! Are there enemies? Such a reaction made Bai Yi frown, immediately got off Zhao Hong, took out his staff and looked into the depths of the cave. Immediately afterwards, a huge creature slowly walked out. The deformed body, waving arms and roaring heads made Bai Yi look shocked. Troll. 0. He recognized that there was a powerful monster in the dark land, with thick skin and low IQ. However, the average troll has one head and two hands just like a normal person. The one in front of me, whether it is due to being contaminated by darkness or due to its own bloodline, has 4 arms and 2 heads. But what is certain is that this troll will be stronger than ordinary trolls. Roar. The troll roared, its eyes radiating scarlet light, full of bloodthirsty, without any sense. The moment the sound fell, it rushed over, each holding a thick wooden stick about 4 meters in its 2 arms, and smashed it with great force. Zhao Hong, fight separately. Bai Yi gave an order, and Zhao Hong dodged instantly, while Bai Yi also used Shadow Shuttle, and the figure disappeared from the place and escaped outside the cave. The range inside the cave is not large and cannot be used, so outside the cave is more suitable. However, as they dodged, the troll's attack fell. Next, with the help of a wooden stick, a deep pit was punched out of the ground. The power of terror. Bai Yi clicked his tongue. If he was hit by this, he would die. It can only be said that the power of the troll in front of him is almost more terrifying than some giants. But he was not afraid. Instead, he licked his lips and showed an excited smile. Just in time, let's try new skills on you. Having said that, Bai Yi made a fighting stance. At the same time, the ground trembled, and the troll rushed out of the cave fiercely, locking its eyes on Bai Yi, roaring with its head, and directly sprayed out a huge fireball, like car size. Roar. Zhao Hong roared and immediately sprayed out flames in an attempt to stop the fireball, but was instantly broken by the fireball. Fortunately, Bai Yi was also prepared. With a wave of his staff, a huge magic shield enveloped the day and night. The huge fireball hit the magic shield, and a roaring sound immediately erupted, causing the magic shield to tremble continuously, and even cracks appeared. It can be seen that the strength of this troll is definitely Bai Yi's current strength. The most destructive monster I have ever seen. But even so, its blow still did not break the magic shield. It can also be seen that the defensive power of the magic shield has been greatly enhanced after being synthesized. Bai Yi looked surprised, but quickly recovered and grinned. Magic. It looks like a magical creature, so that will be much easier to handle. A wave of the staff. The forbidden law spear condensed, and with a roar, the spear escaped like a stream of light, piercing through the troll's body at an extremely fast speed, imprisoning it in place and unable to move. At the same time, magic resistance is also weakened at this moment. Without Bai Yi's instructions, Zhao Hong opened her mouth and spit out flames. And Bai Yi also waved the staff again. The gaze of the dead dragon. Roar. A dragon's roar sounded loudly. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.